It's time for Twit This Week in Tech. Christina Warren is here from GitHub, Reed Albergotti from Semaphore, and my friend Sam Abuelsamid, my car guy. We will talk about Pavel Durov, just arrested in France. But are the platforms responsible for the content on the platform? We'll talk about it. Elon is both a hero and a goat, once again, saving the astronauts on the space station. And the lawsuit against Live Nation and Ticketmaster heats up that and a whole lot more coming up next on Twit.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twit, This Week in Tech, episode 994, recorded August 25th, 2024. Time moves on, but I don't. It's time for Twit, This Week in Tech, the show where we talk about the week's tech news. I have assembled a wonderful panel just for you. Our car guy, Sam Abuelsamid, is here, principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights. His podcast is at wheelbearings.media, and he is in his paneled man cave in Ypsilanti, Michigan, filled with cars. Hi, Sam.
Hey, Leo. Hey, how are you today?
Great to see you. Sorry about your beautiful Daisy.
It happens, unfortunately.
I had to put her down. Yeah. That's so sad.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great to see you, Sam. Also with us, Christina Warren, senior dev advocate at GitHub, the original film girl, the one and only. You had, I was following your exploits with Delta a few weeks ago after the CrowdStrike.
Yeah.
You couldn't get home.
I couldn't get home. Yeah, it was very frustrating, but I was able to get home a couple weeks ago, and I was in Atlanta, and then I was in Portland, and now I'm here. So
just got back.
Just got back, literally like 20 minutes ago.
Well, you probably haven't seen any of the big stories because almost all of it's breaking right now. So I'll fill you in as we go. Also with us from semaphore.com, the wonderful Reed Albergotti. He's a technology editor there. Hi, Reed.
Hi, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure. This just in. A judge has ruled that Martin Shkreli has to surrender his Wu-Tang album copies. Just thought I'd let you know.
That's very important news.
Very important breaking news. Shkreli, who
Surrendered
I think is in jail right now, isn't he?
No, I think he's been out for a while.
Did he get out? Yeah, that's right. He was tweeting advice for jail time to somebody. I can't remember.
Wasn't it to Sam Bankman-Fried?
Yeah, I think it was SBF. Yeah, you're saying it was hysterical, but I think it was genuine, like genuine useful knowledge. If I could find it, I'll pass it along because you probably should know it too. I certainly made a note of it. He bought many moons ago with his ill-gotten pharmaceutical gains the one and only copy of Once Upon a Time in Shaolin from the Wu-Tang Clan. I feel like, Christina Warren, you might be a Wu-Tang fan. I don't know why.
I mean, I definitely listened to Wu-Tang albums, and I definitely know the lore. And I know that a lot of people were very, very angry when he bought the record because it is like this coveted piece of kind of like.
But shouldn't they be angry at Wu-Tang for selling it to that way?
I mean, probably, right? But like, if you're a fan of the artist, you're never going to be mad at the artist, right? That's not stan culture. And I think like, it's one of those things where I remember before he went to jail, he would do like live streams where he would, say he might play part of the album or something like that. Wow. I mean, I don't know if anyone's ever going to see this. I hope he ripped it. Like, I hope that at least for all of our sakes that he ripped it.
It says
this can find its way to, the torrent site somehow.
It says that he must surrender all his copies. I don't know.
Well, great.
Well, I'm sure he'll be right on top of that.
I'm sure he'll be on top of that.
Not hold back any copies.
Totally. And look, here's the thing. Again, like I said, I hope he rips it because, he might have to surrender all his copies. But if it's on a torrent someplace, I mean, I don't know, man.
The court issued this is from courtlistener.com. A court issued a preliminary injunction enjoining him from possessing, using, disseminating, or selling any interest in the album, including its data and files, or in any way causing further damage to plaintiff. I'm not sure who is plaintiff Wu-Tang, respecting the album through this conduct, ordering him to provide an inventory and accounting of the copies he's retained, the individuals to whom he's given these copies, and any attendant revenue. He also has to turn over to counsel all recording of the album's contents that he possesses or controls by August 30th.
Anyway. So he has to turn them over to the court?
Yeah. I don't know who is this is an ongoing lawsuit. I don't know with whom. Yeah. So it's just...
So in Wikipedia, it says that in June 2024, the Museum of Old and New Art in Hobart, the first public exhibition of the album was in June 24 at the Museum of Old and New Art in Hobart, Tasmania. That month, Shkreli live streamed the album on X, triggering a lawsuit from Pleaser DAO.
Pleaser DAO. Oh, it's an NFT thing.
Of course.
Oh, that's right. He sold it, didn't he, to Pleaser DAO?
Yeah, Pleaser DAO also began selling partial ownership of the album as an NFT, with each purchase accelerating the release by 88 seconds.
That's what a DAO is for. Yeah. Anyway, it's silly. It's a silly story, but I just broke, so I had to give you the latest. And I just wanted to do that for Christina.
I appreciate it. No, thank you. You know how much I love like the scam artists, and I love this like latest in the Martin Shkreli like lore. That okay. So the really big story actually broke, and you may not even be up to date on this yet because I heard about it. I heard about it last night. I heard it last night, but do we know why he was arrested? Has that come out yet?
Yeah. So Pavel Durov, who created something called V-Contact, which a lot of people, for a long time, we thought of him as the Mark Zuckerberg of Russia. V-Contact was like a Facebook in Russia. But then the Russian government forced him to sell it to them. And he left. He's been living in Dubai, but he's apparently has joint citizenship in France and Dubai. Flew into France yesterday on his private jet from Azerbaijan and was immediately arrested by French authorities. There's a law in France that says you have to moderate your site. He owns Telegram. He created Telegram. It's worth, by the way, according to Wikipedia, $11.5 billion due to his ownership of Telegram and some shrewd crypto investments.
Is there such a thing, really?
Lucky, maybe, would be a better word than shrewd. So he miscalculated leaving Russia, said former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev. How Elon Musk is a little concerned too, because there's apparently a French law that says he's responsible for the contents of Telegram. Telegram, by the way, I don't know, are we doing it yet, Benito? We were going to start streaming on Telegram.
I don't think it's started yet.
We haven't started it yet.
Yeah, Anthony's still figuring it out.
There is no, as Igor Ackerman says in our Discord, there is pas de section 230 in France. There is no section 230 in France. In France, they're saying you allow terrorist content. And there is apparently on Telegram all sorts of stuff, including soon our show. But like any, it's a messaging platform, but it has public channels. Durov has been quoted as saying there's only 30 engineers on the site and only 50 moderators. So there's no way, given the amount of traffic on Telegram, you could possibly moderate it. Elon Musk X'd. It's 2030 in Europe and you're being executed for liking a meme. I think Elon's probably feeling I don't think Elon will be going to France anytime soon. Let's put it that way. So the French authorities claim he's complicit in drug trafficking and other serious crimes, but his complicity is that they don't moderate it on Telegram. So I'm really torn on this one. Honestly, I'm torn on this one. You wouldn't arrest an executive at AT&T because terrorists are using the phone system.
Right.
You would arrest the publisher of the New York Times if he published a recipe for bomb making. But in between those two, extremes, there is this middle ground of social media where they're not a common carrier, they're not a phone company, but they're not a publisher either. In the US Section 230 protects them so that they can moderate without liability and they can't be held responsible for stuff that's on X, in the U.S. on X, that is illegal. That's the responsibility of people who post it. And this feels like there's a lot of anti-tech prosecutions going on where I think of Google all the time, where they're held responsible for having a search index to a piracy site, but the piracy site isn't held responsible. It's like you should prosecute the criminals, but should you prosecute the people who, and I don't even want to use this word, empower the criminals by providing them with a platform for speech? I'm very torn on this. So I want you to persuade me, Reed Albergotti, one way or the other.
Gosh, I don't know if I don't know if I have a strong opinion on this either. I mean, I do think that it's a sign of the times of this sort of global closing in on, social media and tech. I also think, I mean, if you look at some of these stories, a big part of this seems to be their unwillingness to comply with law enforcement requests. So it seems there's a bit of a, him not wanting to play ball, and that's gonna really upset regulators. It probably doesn't help that he's, maybe he's not a Russian citizen, but the Russian government has come out and said they're upset about this. So we know nobody's a fan of Russia. So there's definitely a political aspect to it. If you look at all the U.S. social media companies, I mean, they have law enforcement people who are practically embedded there, and they're not going to comply with every request. But when it comes to like a kidnapping situation or, something to do with it's very time sensitive involving kids, they're going to get on it very quickly. And, I think there's probably a lot of leeway around these laws, but if you own one of these platforms, I mean, you better have people who are playing ball, whether you think you're, morally opposed to that, or you want to, you think the principle is wrong. I mean, it seems to me he kind of miscalculated here. Durov miscalculated and probably made a big mistake.
Durov's lawyer says it's ridiculous. He says that, by the way, in the semaphore story about this. Telegram says they abide by EU laws, including the Digital Services Act. Its moderation is within industry standards and constantly improving. Telegram's CEO, Pavel Durov, has nothing to hide and travels frequently in Europe. It's absurd to claim that a platform or its owner are responsible for abuse of that platform. And you might have hit on something, because a police source, there's no official statement from the police yet, but told Reuters that he was arrested as part of a police investigation into allegedly allowing a wide range of crimes due to lack of moderators on Telegram and lack of cooperation with police. The other point, which Chocolate Milk Minisip is making in our Discord, is that the Russian troops use Telegram and may even be coordinating troop movements on Telegram. And that may be part of what's going on. Sam, what do you think? I feel like he's not responsible for what's going on Telegram. Is he?
I'm torn on this because, I think ultimately, the platform owner operator probably shouldn't be responsible, but I don't like to have binary answers to something like this. I think it feels like there isn't a clear-cut answer. Yeah, it needs to be more nuanced. And while I absolutely support free speech, I think that there should be some responsibility, if there is illegal activity going on there. But I don't know how you do that without, at the same time, potentially infringing on free speech. It's a really tough call. And I certainly don't want
almost 1 billion monthly active users.
Yeah.
Including me. When Telegram came out, I really liked it. I was quick to tell people don't think of it as encrypted. It's not encrypted by default, and even when it is encrypted, it's encrypted using an internal algorithm that is not really fully vetted by the crypto community. is roll your own encryption.
Right.
But
And
at
I
the
certainly
same time,
wouldn't
it's a
want-
great messaging platform. I really like it. It has a lot of nice features. It's very comfortable to be there. It has both public and private channels. I subscribe to a number of Telegram channels. One of the Telegram channels I subscribe to is just a republishing of Apple's press releases. So I get notifications from Telegram every time Apple releases a new press release, which I find useful.
And,
On the other hand, apparently, according to law enforcement, Telegram is widely used by drug dealers. It's like Silk Road in that respect,
And-
by
and the way-
terrorists. It was used by the January 26 insurrectionists to organize the insurrection. Christina, we haven't come to an answer. Maybe you can be the judge and jury.
I mean, no, I wish that I could, right? I mean, I've been trying to, when I was first I heard about this last night, and I was trying to find some information about, like, well, what are they claiming that he did? And I guess, look, if the French authorities are saying that he violated some law, I'm still kind of stuck on the why would you fly into France thing, right? Like, knowing that you have this warrant out, why would you, frankly, be in any part of the EU? I'm not sure, like, why he would make that decision. It's not as if a private plane is going to mean that they don't know, there aren't flight records, and that countries don't know who is going to be entering their airspace and that sort of thing. But I'm also kind of, I guess, stuck on the free speech thing, because on the one hand, I don't feel like, I do feel like there should be common carrier rules just as applied to the telephone. And that's why I do actually, I'm a strong supporter of, the DMCA kind of exceptions. I know that there are a lot of groups that are unhappy with how that works out, but it's the system that we have, and I think it's important for the internet going forward. And I also understand that obviously doesn't apply in other countries and other jurisdictions, but it does feel weird to basically say, okay, because this platform is being used for illegal activity, and I'm sure that it is, I have no doubt that it is, that you can arrest someone for participating in that simply because they run the platform. I would question, like, what makes Telegram different demonstrably from something like Signal, or even, something like
exactly.
iMessage, or something, like, in any of the other kind of messaging services that we have, regardless of, like, what encryption level, like what makes it different. And especially Signal, I think, is a good kind of, corollary. There are some differences where, as you mentioned, you can publish things to Telegram, you can do live streams, people can publish feeds and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it is a messaging platform. And without having more information about why they took this step, there's a big part of me that is very uncomfortable with arresting the owner of a messaging platform for the content that takes place there. This is not a Silk Road situation, and he was arrested for a lot of reasons, but this is not a Silk Road situation where the only purpose of the service is to have illicit activity take place. I'm sure that it happens, but that's not the primary use case. I think the primary use case is, for a lot of people, just like using WhatsApp. That's another service that has many of the similar features with the Telegram. Like, why is WhatsApp okay in Europe but not Telegram? And I would want to know more from the French authorities, I guess, about their response to that. But at the same time, like, it's if their argument is that there's been a lot of implicit allowances of certain types of behavior, and there's been nothing done by the platform at all to curb, use cases or abuse. I mean, I don't know if it goes to the level of arresting someone, but certainly I can understand why authorities would potentially want to get involved, and why there might be legal consequences.
Galia in our club Twit Discord, she lives in Israel. She says that she uses Telegram. There's an Israeli home front Telegram channel for alerts about incoming attacks. She says, one time I was in a car, we didn't hear the missile siren, but the phone vibrated on an alert from Telegram, and they pulled over. So, it's clear that there's, like, I would imagine on any messaging platform, there is good stuff and there's bad stuff, and maybe really, really, really bad stuff. What is the onus? How much responsibility does the platform owner? Does Facebook do a good job of moderating WhatsApp? I would guess that Telegram doesn't moderate it much, if at all. Is that not enough? How much is enough? And then I think, Reed, you really made a good point that, Durov has previously said that the FBI tried to get a backdoor into the platform and he denied them. It could very well be that's exactly what happened here. The French police wanted a backdoor and he said no. And they said, all right, on your way to the jail. It feels to me, I want to be fair and reasonable, that people who run these platforms have some onus of responsibility for the content on there. But when you have 1 billion users, is there any way you could possibly moderate it, especially if you offer encryption? You could moderate it in a way that would be satisfactory?
I don't think so. Mike Masnick has talked about this a lot. I think his basic philosophy is that moderation at scale, at this kind of scale, just doesn't work. It's not really possible. I think one important thing to consider here is difference between moderation or lack of moderation and amplification. As far as I know, Telegram is not amplifying any of this bad stuff or anything for that matter.
That's a good point. They just offer a platform.
You look at something like Twitter or X, or Facebook, and they do, through their algorithms, they do amplify a lot of stuff that we probably don't want amplified. And so I think that's where, when you're starting to use algorithms to amplify or suppress certain content, it goes both ways. Then it becomes more the responsibility of the platform owner. Whereas for something like this, where it's just dumb pipes, for lack of a better phrase, and people sending stuff to each other, then I think that's a little bit different story. I think there's, as much as I'd like to say, yes, they should be responsible for cleaning this stuff up, particularly if it's in the encrypted channels, then maybe we don't want them doing that.
I think you have to be a good citizen. I remember when I was at the Washington Post and the Facebook papers leaked, and they basically gave a consortium of newspapers access to these just reams of documents that came out of Facebook. I just spent a weekend just along with everyone else covering tech at the Washington Post, looking through them. And I thought some of the most interesting documents, which didn't really get any coverage, were these investigations that Facebook would do. They have people who are basically, former law enforcement or, coders who are just really interested in this topic, who find stuff on Facebook and do criminal, basically what amount to criminal investigations. In one case, this guy had broken up a international sex trafficking ring on his own, with just Facebook on data. And then they sort of hand this over to law enforcement on a silver platter and let them do these investigations. And I think that's the kind of stuff that, to be sort of like a good citizen, you're expected to do when you get to a certain size. And if you're not doing that, I don't know. I think you're waiting for, it's kind of the same point I made earlier, but I just think you're asking for trouble.
Mavs guy in our Discord says the entire business model for these platforms is to get to a billion users. So their excuse can't be, well, it's just so hard when you get this big. I'm sorry, we can't. That's that was their goal in the first place. But can you moderate? Can you, especially if there's private channels? And should you be forced to moderate if people are using your platform to organize, let's say, an armed rebellion or a terrorist action, or, as has been accused, assassination plots?
Discord is actually a great example of this, right? You mentioned Discord. They had the whole Charlottesville thing, and they got a lot of bad press after that. They stepped up their moderation, and even in closed groups where I don't know if they're encrypted, but they're closed, they're able to do moderation using automation, AI basically. So they give people's privacy, but if there are certain, I don't know, it's not keywords, but something along those lines, trigger things, they can then go and alert authorities or what have you. And I think their image has gotten so much better since doing that.
So it sounds like we agree that there should be some burden on these companies to try to keep the worst stuff off of them. Child pornography, things like that.
I mean, I think it also truly kind of depends on what the encryption level is for what's being used, right? Because obviously one-to-one and in some group conversations are encrypted, which means that Telegram can't see its contents. And in that case, I'm not actually comfortable with any government demanding encryption keys to view that. I think where it becomes different, and I think where Telegram potentially does do things very differently from many other services, is that because they do have a public or semi-public viewable unencrypted view of things, right? And these public groups,
moderated, right?
That I do believe there is something that, I think there is some sort of responsibility that at the very least, the worst of the worst, if we're talking about planning terrorist plots, if we're talking about assassinations, if we're talking about, CSAM, if we're talking about things at that level, then I don't think that you can just hide behind the guise of, oh, well, we're just the platform, right? Well, you're making this public, right? Like even the telephone, these are one-to-one conversations. It's not as if it's being broadcast to everyone. In fact, when it is broadcast, there are regulations around that, right? And there are laws around what can be broadcast. So I think that to me maybe is the distinction point, which is if illegal activity and discussions are happening, no matter how heinous, on your encrypted network, I think that's just a reality of running, kind of public airwave things, right? Like this is just going to happen. And I don't know what you can require of these companies short of turning over their encryption keys. And I don't think that is at all a valid response. But if you are talking about these public or semi-public unencrypted channels where collusion might be happening or drug deals or the exchange of other types of illegal information, that I think becomes different. And then I don't think you can necessarily, just use it as excuse of, well, we can't do any sort of moderation. Now, do you have the ability to do moderation at scale? As Mike points out, no. Are there going to be things that fall through? Yes. But I don't think you can just act as if you don't have to do anything at all, which perhaps has been the approach that Telegram has been taking.
Yeah.
And I agree with what you're saying, Christina, and also what you said, Reed, especially, as far as being a good citizen, in those public or semi-public channels, I think you have a responsibility to at least make a good faith effort. And then, if you've done that, I think that's the best we can ask for. I don't know that we can actually regulate that in any kind of reasonable way. But then, if a company or a platform is not doing that, then, it to some degree becomes the responsibility of the users to say, hey, is this something I want to continue to support by continuing to use this platform if they're not making at least a good faith effort? And, that, for example, that's why I'm not on Twitter, because I don't see them making that good faith effort. And there's other platforms that I don't use for the same reasons. So I think it's up to, up to the platforms to make that a reasonable effort, and then up to users to decide what are they willing to continue to use in spite of what may be happening there.
I think the reason I'm concerned is because of continuous attempts by all of the governments, but especially the Five Eyes, to break encryption, like to eliminate encrypted messaging. Like they just don't like it that their citizens can talk without law enforcement seeing it. And that's a problem. That's a big problem. And I think we all agree we don't want that to happen. We want privacy, regardless of the kinds of conversations we're having. So I think there's a legitimate concern about that. Besides being the public attempts that governments are making with laws to break the encryption, the UK actually has outlawed it in some respects to say that platforms have to provide clear text. I think that's on hold right now, but nevertheless, they keep trying it. And also the backdoor methods that the FBI has tried, for instance, with Durov, he says, to get him to provide backdoors in Telegram. Those things are reprehensible. We don't want that. But at the same time, we don't, I don't know, do we? I also think that there's a hazard here that if you say, well, no, you've got to have this moderation and you have to make sure this never happens, that it's just going to make it only possible for the big guys, for Google, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, to do messaging. Because everybody else, if you're a startup, you just don't want to incur the liability. That's why Section 230 is so important in the U.S. We wouldn't have chat rooms if it weren't for Section 230, because I can't afford to go to court to defend myself if somebody says something illegal.
I think conflating the issue of the encryption debate and sort of the spy agencies and national security and law enforcement is a little bit of a mistake. I think for those agencies, they don't have much trouble finding backdoors.
They know more
services
than ever before, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Absolutely.
the FBI iPhone thing was like just such a perfect illustration of that, because they went to court. They were fighting that battle, and then they realized, oh, like, we've got somebody who can just get us in. And I think after that, they didn't make much of a fuss, because they realized how easy it is to just break into any iPhone they want.
Right.
But law enforcement has a different issue, which is they need admissible evidence, right, to investigate things. So they need companies to actually comply with them. They can't just go in without a warrant and look at somebody, look at messages just because they want to. So I just would just sort of like separate those issues, I guess, is my point.
Yeah. But also there's that issue of, you want people to be able to create new technologies, new messaging platforms without being put out of business instantly because bad people use it. Look, humans, there are bad humans, and every platform is going to have bad people on it doing bad things. If the only people who can set up platforms are people who can afford to moderate 100%, you're not going to have Mastodon. You're not going to have Discord. You're not going to have anything. You're going to have WhatsApp. But, it's a little harder to defend Pavel Durov. If this happened to Signal, I would be up in arms, right? If Meredith Whittaker or anybody at Signal were arrested for the same thing, I would be furious. I'd be up in arms. Durov really seems to have the attitude, anything goes. He's a little bit like Elon. Anything goes. Free speech. We're not going to, I really think Durov says to himself, if not in public, we're not going to moderate. This is a platform. We're going to let anybody do anything they want. So maybe there's some legitimate reason to take him to task. I think arresting him is not the right answer, but.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I think you're right in that he is a much harder figure to defend and to want to defend. But at the same time, I mean, that aren't those the people that we still have to defend the most, right? Like, if the principle is the same. Now, if something is shown to be, really egregious, and if there are circumstances that we don't know about that go above and beyond, that's one thing. But I feel like if the principal reason that that he's being arrested, like, what would stop the authorities from arresting people from Signal or others, right? Like, that's, I guess, the thing that concerns me.
And maybe all the French want is for him to make some effort. Just try, Pavel. Just try a little bit for us.
Bit of an extreme step if they just want.
Yeah.
They kind of risk turning into a martyr, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, he is. I'm sure he is. Yeah. All right. Well, I knew this would be a challenging question, because there is no obvious ease. There's no easy answer to this. It's highly nuanced. But in general, I think I come down on the side of free speech. As deplorable as it sometimes is, go after those people, not the platform they use. If you shut down Telegram, it doesn't mean terrorists can no longer communicate.
True.
Yeah, no, it's not going to go away. Like, this is,
people are horrible.
Absolutely.
Some people.
Now,
A tiny percentage of people.
the bad things are going to happen regardless of
Yeah.
whether Telegram is shut down or not. If anything, like you said, it risks turning into a martyr, and it can also disrupt the very useful ways that these services have been used. That said, I do feel like, especially if you're operating as a for-profit entity, you cannot be above the law. You
Right.
cannot be above any sort of
No, that's
rules at
true.
all.
Yeah. No, you have to adhere to the law of every country you operate in.
Right. And I keep going back to, like, why would you fly into Paris? Like, why would you do this? Why was he looking potentially to force the confrontation? Was this, some sort of error? I'm not sure, right? But like in my mind, I have to think like, why would you, knowing that you have, UAE citizenship, like why would, and that there's an arrest
he's
warrant
also
out
French
for you.
citizen.
I realize, I recognize.
Did he
right.
actually? Are we sure that he knew? Is that
we don't know that
a fact out there? Okay.
Yeah. All the Reuters story said is the French police looked at the manifest on the flight, saw that Durov was on it, and there was a outstanding warrant for Durov. So Durov may have known that they must have known, right? You must.
Right.
Well, not necessarily in the, I mean, I don't know French law as well, but like in the US, you can have a sealed warrant.
Warrants.
So
fair. Yeah. I mean, if that's the case, then that makes it even more, in my opinion, potentially, I have questions about the French, right? Like,
don't we all?
Well, yes, okay, but you know what I mean. But you make a good point, Reed. But like, it could have been sealed. But in that case, I wonder, okay, well, what are you really trying to accomplish, right? Like, have you really tried to reach out and try to get something done, or were you just monitoring when the flights were coming in? So if he was ambushed, that's like a different scenario, and I have fewer questions. But with it being outstanding, I guess my impression was that he or his lawyers knew that there was something there.
Wanted a showdown.
And I don't know if he wanted a showdown or if he was just had enough hubris that thought, oh, well, they're not going to arrest me.
I'm a billionaire.
Right.
Get me out of here. I'm a billionaire. Sam Abuelsamid, Christina Warren, Reed Albergotti, got a great panel for you. We started with the hardest story. We'll get to more in just a little bit. It's great to have all three of you. You're watching This Week in Tech, brought to you this week by 1Password. This is a great story. 1Password acquired one of our sponsors, Collide, and it's a match made in heaven. Collide makes sure that the devices people on your network are using are secure, that the apps that they're using are up to date, and they get your end users involved in it, which is great. Instead of making end users kind of the enemy, the problem, they're the solution. And this is really a big issue because your end users, let me ask you, your end users, they always work on company-owned devices. They never bring their iPhone to work. They never take their laptop home. They always use IT-approved apps, right? No, of course not. Obviously not. So how do you keep your company's data safe when it's sitting on all those unmanaged apps, all those unmanaged devices? 1Password and Collide together have created something really awesome. It's called Extended Access Management. 1Password Extended Access Management helps you secure every sign-in for every app on every device. It solves the problems traditional IAM and MDM just can't touch. Your company's security is like the quad of a college campus, right? Nice brick paths, beautifully paved, leading from ivy-covered building to ivy-covered building. Those are the company-owned devices. Those are the IT-approved apps, the managed employee identities. Then there are those little dirt paths, the paths people actually use, the shortcuts worn through the grass, the actual shortest point from building A to building B. Those are the unmanaged devices, the shadow IT apps, the non-employee identities like contractors on your networks. Now, most security tools really focus on those happy little brick paths and the nice brick buildings, but where do the security problems happen? On the shortcuts, on the dirt paths, right? That's why you need 1Password Extended Access Management. It's the first security solution that brings all those unmanaged devices, apps, and identities under your control. It assures that every user credential is strong and protected, that every device is known and healthy, that every app is visible. It's security for the way we really work today. Now, it's available to companies that use Okta. They've added Microsoft Entra. Fantastic news. And it's in beta right now for Google Workspace customers. Authentication plus protection against shadow IT, BYOD devices, and get your users involved. It's just a match made in heaven. Check it out. 1password.com/twit. That's the number 1, PASSWORD, 1password.com/twit. I was really happy when I heard 1Password had acquired Collide, and now that they've created this new product, it's the best of both worlds. It's fantastic. 1password.com/twit. Now for Okta and Entra for Google Workspace. Actually, it's already in beta. They move fast. Thank you, 1Password, for supporting our show This Week in Tech. Let me see what else is going on. Elon Musk is the hero. Iron Man is back. So it's a tragic tale of two astronauts off on an 8-day cruise to the International Space Station on a fine Boeing vehicle, who found out that the Boeing vehicle had some thruster issues. NASA said, we don't can, and they've been stuck there. They've been stuck there. Sunita Williams and Barry Butch Wilmore have been unable to get home because the Starliner is unreliable. NASA thought about it, and finally on Friday they announced what they're going to do. They've been in space for 2 months, a little longer than the 8 days. They're rationing clothing at this point. There's plenty of food. They don't have to worry about air. I mean, but they didn't, bring. I think they told their family, we'll be home next week. So NASA has announced that they are not going to let the Boeing Starliner bring them back. They're going to return it to Earth uncrewed, just in case. Because if this thruster thing doesn't work, it could be disastrous, right? That's how they get back into the atmosphere and through it. They've announced that SpaceX has now got the contract, and in February, a SpaceX flight will come to the space station and take the two home. The way SpaceX's Dragon works, I think they have 4 seats, so maybe they'll on that mission send up 2 astronauts and then come back with 4. Just another black mark for Boeing, Sam.
Yeah, they can't seem to get anything right lately.
Jeez Louise.
Ever since they merged with McDonnell Douglas in 1997, it has been just a steady downhill stream for Boeing, because the management there has been more focused on the financials than on actually producing good products. And really, Boeing used to be known as a great engineering company, and for the last 25 years, it's just been a complete mess. Every program, every new aircraft program they've done, whether it's civilian or military or space, has just been a catastrophe. And from the 787 to the 777X, the 737 MAX, the KC-46 tanker for the military, everything's been completely screwed up. And Boeing just announced a new CEO a couple of weeks ago. They brought in former executive from not Raytheon. I forget. It's a company that makes avionics systems for aircraft. And he just started last week. It's going to take a while to really get Boeing's organization and culture back on track. That's not something you turn around overnight. I mean, this is a problem that was 25 years in the making, and it's probably going to take years to sort out what's gone wrong at Boeing.
Kelly Ortberg will be taking over. He's from Rockwell Collins.
Yeah, he started last week, and the Starliner has just been plagued with problems long before they had its first launch. They've had all kinds of hardware issues, software issues with that capsule. The original plan was they were going to do an uncrewed flight into orbit and then do a crewed flight into orbit. Well, the first uncrewed flight had so many issues that they had to do. They spent 2 years working on it and had to do another uncrewed flight before they would allow astronauts on it. And then that one still had a bunch of issues, but they thought they had it all, under control. And now, this time, it launched okay, but then once they got up into space, they discovered leaks and issues with these thrusters that help with maneuvering. And as I said, those maneuvering thrusters, if they're not working, when a spacecraft comes back into the atmosphere, it has to be in exactly the right orientation or it burns up. Yeah. And so they cannot
or
afford
it skips on the atmosphere and heads out into deep space.
Yeah, so they can't
go
afford
really badly.
They can't afford to mess that one up. So it makes sense that they're going to bring back those 2 astronauts on a Crew Dragon instead.
Yeah. You kind of, it must have been a tough decision for NASA. It's especially tough because NASA really had hoped to have at least 2 companies working on this, Boeing and SpaceX. And Boeing has just failed. At this point, they are so reliant on Elon. And this is something that, I'm kind of dealing with this myself. I have up here in the studio, we're on Comcast Business, and it's been acting funny. It dropped out a couple of times last week. So we ordered, what else? I had no other choice. It was either DSL from AT&T. That wasn't going to do it. And we got one from SpaceX, a Starlink, and I feel kind of dirty.
I mean, look, at least the people are going to potentially be getting home safe, right? Like that's the more important thing.
Well, that's important, yeah. But the real concern of the U.S. government is how reliant we are on a guy who really seems somewhat unstable.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same point, I think to Sam's point, like this is 25 years in the making for Boeing, where they've made mistake after mistake after mistake.
Oh no, they earned it.
Right? And you have to wonder. It's like, okay, well, as the government, like, why have you? I do have questions about them and about NASA. Why have they not been more exacting? Why have they not demanded more from their suppliers?
Well, as I said, I think nobody wants to have a single source, right?
Right.
Especially a source that is maybe as unpredictable as Elon. There's a article about Elon and Starlink. The Ukrainian military was using Starlink, but Elon forbade them, blocked them from using it in a mission that they wanted to do because he thought it was it's not good. We don't want to cause a nuclear war, so I'm not going to let you use it. He's making foreign policy decisions in effect because he controls Starlink. And I don't think anybody would deny a little unpredictable. I don't know what his priorities are anyway. Thank goodness he's there to, you know what? I shouldn't knock it, right? Because he's going to save these 2 astronauts. Thank goodness he has a system that works. One of the reasons they wanted Boeing, according to The Atlantic, is that SpaceX's bid seemed impossibly low. And they thought, well, can we trust this guy? Well, I mean, both of them had cost overruns, but it turned out that they could trust SpaceX and they can't trust Boeing. Right now, according to The Atlantic, NASA has no other reliable way to send people to space from U.S. soil. They used to use Russian vehicles. Obviously, they're not going to do that anymore. Right. And with Boeing's flop, no prospect of a second option for potentially years to come.
One of the issues is that the problems with the Boeing Starliner have been going on so long that NASA really should have gotten another supplier going years ago.
Right.
It was clear that Boeing was not going to be able to get its problems sorted out this quickly, or in any kind of reasonable time frame, and they should have had a third source.
Yeah, they can't quit SpaceX.
Who would be the Like, are you looking at like Blue Origin or someone like that and thinking that they might one
what
day?
about the ESA? What about the European Space Agency?
They don't have a crewed vehicle that they can send up. They have rockets that they can use to launch satellites. They do not have a crewed vehicle. And right now there isn't, Blue Origin is so far behind schedule as well. Blue Origin was supposed to be launching, or they were supposed to be supplying their rocket engines to ULA, which is the joint venture between Lockheed Martin and Boeing, that was the other company that was launching satellites for the U.S. military. And the ULA had been for years using actually Russian rocket motors on their launch vehicles, and that's no longer an option. They can't get those anymore. I think they just launched their last rocket, their last couple of those Russian rocket motors, and they had been planning to use the Blue Origin rocket motors, but Blue Origin is years behind schedule as well.
Yeah.
Do you think there's going to be Do you think, I mean, there are so many space startups now. People have, SpaceX there's like a bit of a SpaceX mafia, diaspora of entrepreneurs now. Do you think that it'll just take time and eventually there will be sort of a competitive private space market?
It can't take too long. The ISS is going to be deorbited in 2030, in 5 years.
Yeah.
So I think Elon's got this one. I think SpaceX is probably going to be fully responsible for sending astronauts to the ISS for the United States. But you're right. I mean, if we want to continue space exploration, it feels like we should get some competing bids.
Yeah. I do have kind of a pseudo-related kind of query for you all. As American tech companies go, which one is the bigger kind of embarrassment or kind of the failure? Is it Intel? Is it Boeing?
Oh, yeah.
I would say it's Boeing.
For sure, Boeing.
Intel's problems, as big as they are, generally haven't killed people yet.
Oh, fair enough. I just mean, I think in terms of just like the enormity of like where we've seen like these great institutions just really fall apart. But yeah, I mean, I think you make a good case for Boeing. They definitely have cost people's lives. So that's, yeah.
I mean, like I said, I'm kind of in a microcosm of the same problem, which is I don't, and this is true everywhere in America, you don't have many options for high-speed internet. In many cases, just one, as in my case, and it's a cable company. So thank goodness that Starlink exists, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I think my Elon observation is just that it's so remarkable, just his personality and the things that he's decided to go and say, how much that has affected him. I mean, if you look at Twitter, had he decided not to go and say all these, pretty terrible things right after he bought the company,
Iron Man.
It would be the amount, like it would be one of the great business turnarounds in history, right? I mean, you just get rid of most of the staff. And had he not shot himself in the foot with advertising, and then here you've got this situation where, I mean, it seems like, basically, a government agency saying we will literally take like Boeing, not knowing if they can get the job done because we don't want to work with this Elon guy, or we'll do everything we can to avoid having to work with him on this. And then you talk about like broadband. I mean, they're not working with Starlink. I mean, they say it's because the equipment's too expensive, right? For these like rural broadband programs. But I mean, it's just clearly because,
they're scared of Elon.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's just amazing how, like, despite the fact that he has these, that feels the need to kind of like say the most crazy things publicly, he's still able to, be so
This is
successful.
related a little bit to Pavel Durov flying into Paris. Right. It's like these guys, it's hubris is the word you used, right, Christina? It's they think they're untouchable. Elon clearly, and you know what? Maybe he could make a case that the reason he's so successful is because he's an iconoclast, because he's willing to do things and say things that no one else will do or say, that he breaks the mold. Maybe that's the secret of his success. So who are we to say, yeah, but you're weird?
I mean, I think there's one thing. I think you can be successful in some areas and not others. I think that my biggest, I guess, kind of observation about Elon is that he's someone who believes that he is equally successful at all things, and that because he has the ability to run, build one company that might have capabilities, he can do that for all, and that we should give him the same gravitas in all areas, and that's just not true. That's not true of anyone.
There's a new Twitter book. There were so many books about Twitter now.
Too many books.
There's a new one that is coming out that talks about the weeks after. There's an excerpt in the New York Times today. The weeks after Elon bought it, when he told Esther Crawford and her team, "You have 2 weeks to come up with the blue checkmark system, and if you don't, you'll be fired." That's when she, posted her picture of her sleeping on the floor of the conference room in a sleeping bag. Hashtag, what was it? Sometimes you have to sleep at work. I can't remember.
Or something like that. Or love where you work. It was done
sleep where you work. Yeah.
Sleep where you work or something like that. It was done in a way that was, almost like, promoting that sort of insanity, which, look, if you're on deadline and people have all had to do crazy things, that's fine. My problem with that was always the way that it was almost like, using
It
that
didn't
as
go
a
well,
brag.
would be a nice way to put it.
No, it did not.
So Ryan
it was
Mack
called
and Kate
Not Reading Room.
Conger have a new book called Character Limit, How Elon Musk Destroyed Twitter, which gives you some sense of where they're going with this. And they tell this story about the blue check. And one of the things they said I thought was very interesting, which and this is, I think they had 100 interviews with former employees and current employees, particularly with Esther Crawford, who tried to work with Elon. She had created something. She had a startup called Squad that Twitter bought, I think, in 2020, and she was a pretty high level engineer there when Elon moved in. That's why he went to her and said, you're going to create the Twitter Blue. Her observation was that she could talk to Elon one-to-one. And you could argue with him and you could say no to him one-to-one. But the minute he was in a room with other people, it became really important that no one doubt him, that he was the smartest in the room, and he just became a different person. And I thought that was a kind of an interesting insight. I mean, we don't have a lot of insight. This is one of the problems. Everybody thinks we know Elon Musk from his tweets, but obviously no one except these few. The other thing that they talk about is Jason Calacanis, who we know well on this network. He's been on many times, and David Sachs, who were kind of his cronies in the early days. They would just go around everywhere with Elon. And it was they who said, no, we got to do Twitter Blue. Sachs wanted it to be expensive. Calacanis, I think, said it should be $99 a year. But Elon decided on $8 and tweeted it. As soon as he decided it, he tweeted it. That was it. It's done. It's a fascinating excerpt. And Sachs said that it should be $20 a month. It was Twitter Blue was $4.99. It should be raised to $20 a month. He said anything less felt cheap, and he wanted to present Blue as a luxury good. Chanel could make a fortune selling a $99 bag, but it would be a one-time move. A promotional offer may not. By the way, they have the emails. So this is a direct quote. A promotional offer may not be the position we want. A luxury brand could always move down market, but it's very hard to move up market once the brand is shot. Calacanis disagreed, saying it should be $99 a year. During one meeting, Calacanis launched into a spiel about how Twitter users were more likely to open their wallets for a $100 a year subscription if it seems slightly cheaper at the $99 price, as though he just watched a YouTube video explaining the basics of consumer psychology. Oh, Jason. Elon asks Walter Isaacson, who's writing the biography at the time, for advice. Walter, what do you think? To the employees, the discussions were baffling. Here was Mr. Musk, a man who had built a multi-million-dollar empire, soliciting advice from people who had no experience building social networks. They were billionaires, rich men, not representative of the hundreds of millions of people logged in every day.
But, as we talked about before, the billionaires, they think that once they've succeeded at one thing, that they can do everything.
Right.
And, Elon is a classic example of that, where, like over the last 15 years at Tesla, and I would presume at the other companies as well, he has always been the guy that felt, he's been a micromanager who always felt, I'm the only one that can save this situation. I'm the only one that can create full self-driving. I'm the only one that can keep Tesla out of bankruptcy. And instead of, delegating, to smart, capable people, he would go sleep on the end of the assembly line, which is not helpful to anybody.
No, in fact, imagine yourself as a worker. Yeah. And there's the guy who can fire you like that, looking over your shoulders, saying, hey, shouldn't you tighten that nut a little less, a little more? It's like, that's not a good way to build a car.
Yeah, I mean, years ago, I think it was about 2018 or so, 2017 or 18, there were all kinds of reports that came out about safety problems at Tesla's Fremont assembly plant. And Elon came out and said, going forward, I want every single safety issue to come directly to me. It's like, no, this is not what a CEO is supposed to do. Right. You hire people that have experience in industrial safety and factory safety processes and how to make a safe work environment. And you give them the responsibility and the authority to do their jobs. The one guy doesn't have to be the one that does everything, especially, at the time, I think Tesla was about 35,000 people. It's well over 100,000 now. That's terrible management. He is a great marketer, great at selling stuff, but he has always been a terrible manager.
One of the things they wanted to do is launch this verification system that you just paid for the blue check, by the way. You didn't actually have to be who you say you were. And you remember when they launched it, there was all the people impersonated him. Many others.
Wasn't it Eli Lilly that immediately their stock was impacted because people, someone bought, a check mark and it immediately
pretended to be
they were going to drop the price of insulin, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
And the stock tanked, cost them billions. So it's the weekend before, this is again from the Times excerpt from this new book. The weekend before U.S. voters headed to the polls, Ms. Crawford made one last attempt in a private chat with her boss because they're concerned about election interference. They know as soon as they put out the blue checks, you're going to get all these people saying, they're Joe Biden, etc. Do you want to be blamed for the outcome of this election? She asked. Now remember, this is the weekend before. Oh. Well, when is it? Mr. Musk replied. It's in 2 days. Miss Crawford said, stunned that he hadn't clocked the date that she and her team had been warning him about since the start of the project. Mr. Musk paused, processing. Oh, I didn't realize, he said after a moment. Oh, yeah, it's fine. We can wait. Why don't we wait? This is an interesting way to manage. Anyway, new book. I will try to get them on when the book comes out. It's just piling on. Everybody's piling on. This is the story of Twitter Blue, how Elon Musk got tangled up in blue. Ryan Mack and Kate Conger, and the book is called Character Limit: How Elon Destroyed Twitter. Although I have to say, I'm gonna take the other side a little bit. Didn't we all think Twitter would just collapse when he fired half the engineering team, took servers offline?
We were wrong.
We were wrong.
We were wrong.
I was right. If you had read Semaphore, you were
right, Reed. You said it's going to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, technically, it is fine, right? I mean, there's no.
Yeah.
I mean, there
I
are
think
problems.
the thing that people don't point out enough about this is that the advertising is really the issue, right? And I think Twitter was never had enough users. It was never enough of an essential place for advertisers to go to kind of force them to advertise. It was always a bit of like, well, we'd like to have our brand associated with this place where, the movers and shakers or the media or whatever are talking about the news. But it's not like, I don't think advertisers ever had like a true sense of ROI on Twitter. And I think that was the thing he didn't really, Musk didn't really pay attention to or didn't really study hard enough that he
didn't need to. He had got a bunch of banks to give him billions of dollars.
Well, he breaks things down into first principles, right? And I think that's how he's been able to be successful in these places like, the space industry or Neuralink or, sort of upending the way the automotive industry works. He kind of rethinks how everything works. And that there's sort of a logic to it, right? But there's no logic to advertising. The way his brain works, I don't think is compatible to this sort of weird world of advertising where it's a lot about getting invited to the luxury box and who do you know and all this stuff that just it doesn't really compute for him. And I think that's one of the points I think people miss about the whole Twitter thing.
Twitter has an outside influence. It has a cultural influence that's much bigger than the size of its
Absolutely.
audience.
Or it did, right? I mean, and I think
it still does.
I mean, I would agree with you in comparison to the others. Having said that, I think it's unquestionable that since he bought it, that influence has absolutely waned, right? Twitter still has much more influence than Threads, still has much more influence than Mastodon.
Yeah, but when Joe Biden announced that he wasn't going to run, where did he do it?
I mean, he did it on Twitter. He was on Instagram as well, to be fair.
Yeah, he did it on all the platforms.
He did it on all of them. I mean, but you saw it on Twitter because they actually know how to do real time, and Threads is it's a dumpster fire when it comes to anything news related or seeing anything even remotely current, right? Like Threads is where you go to see
Threads
things that happened 2 days ago.
Politics and news. Meta does not want to get in that business.
Okay, but even putting that aside, they don't want to be real time because literally that's where you go if you want to see what happened 2 days ago. Is you go to Threads for 2-day-old hot takes. Right. So, you know, I mean that's a good point. I mean, honestly, like I
refresh it, and it's still 2 days old. I don't understand.
Absolutely, because they're using different signals, and Twitter, you know, at its core, and Elon has nothing to do with this, was always a real time network feed. And I do think that the cachet, you know, culturally, the impact and kind of the whatnot is still stronger there, but it's definitely dissipated. It's not what it was. It doesn't have the impact that it did. But it is still better than many of the other things. Now, you know, I fully agree.
If you were going to make a big announcement, where would you do it today? Let's say Christina Warren's going to run for president. Where would you announce that?
Like if you had to choose one,
the reason people like Joe Biden and Donald Trump love it is because they go directly to the people, right? You don't have to go call the New York Times, say, can you put something in?
I mean, I would say Instagram.
Insta.
Yeah.
And it's not so much that you're going directly to the people. It's that there are still a lot of journalists that refuse to give up Twitter. And so you post it on Twitter, all of those reporters are going to see it.
Oh no, the real people aren't on Twitter. That wasn't or X. That wasn't asserting that. But if you wanted to get the word out fast, X is a good place to do it.
Sure.
It still sort of seems it's like the CNN of social media. Like people go there when there's some big news event.
And honestly, it has the juice when it comes to the memes and the, you know, like the funny comments and the weirdness. It's still better. It's different than it was, but the funniest stuff you will see there is still there. It is not on any of the other platforms. And unfortunately, I wish that were not true.
Like all the platforms, it has TikTok envy, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
So much video now everywhere. It's all short video. TikTok.
I mean, honestly, if you are depending on, and I think the question you ask is a good one, but I think it depends on who your audience is. And in some cases, I think like TikTok, YouTube would be a top tier pick. I would also have Instagram there, but yeah, I would post to Twitter before I would post to Threads. Absolutely.
I love it. Stephen in our YouTube chat says Elon's being bashed by somebody working out of their attic. Okay, you're right. I am not a billionaire. I have no business acumen whatsoever, apparently.
But you have Lisa.
I shouldn't say that. We've been in business 20 years. It takes something to stay in business for 20 years.
Yes, it does. Yeah. Don't diminish yourself that way.
Actually, there's nothing wrong with being in the attic. I realized it was crazy to have a studio. Why should we have a big studio where nobody has a studio anymore? That's crazy talk.
I think
even Elon doesn't have a studio. He does it out of his garage or whatever. I don't know.
I just think
let's pause the Elon talk.
We'll be done.
Upset. Although I do want to ask you about Tesla, Sam, because it seems like they're not. I mean, for a while it was the hot stock, right?
It's still pretty hot. I mean, it's not going up, but it's still worth way more than
it should be.
Well, let me rephrase that. The valuation is way more than it's worth.
Right.
But Friday closed, the market cap was $690 billion.
Yikes.
Which is, as more than the next 10 biggest automakers in the world.
Right. Yeah, that's the question. Is Tesla worth more than Ford? Is it worth 10 times more than Ford?
No. It's not worth more than Ford, not worth more than Toyota,
Is it a meme stock?
Oh, absolutely. It has been for a decade.
Yeah.
The valuation of Tesla has always been about this story, this belief in Elon, this cult of personality around Elon Musk himself. And because Tesla is the only one of Elon's companies that is publicly traded, I think it also benefits a lot from what the other companies are doing. So a lot of people, a lot of retail investors And Tesla has an unusually large number of retail investors. So a lot of retail investors buy Tesla because they're buying into Elon's narrative of what all of his companies are doing. And this idea that, Tesla is someday, going to be worth trillions of dollars because it's going to unlock all this value in cars through full self-driving and turn everybody's Tesla into a robo-taxi, all of which is nonsense. But, there are a few stock analysts out there that, have kept putting out this story, people like Cathie Wood, people like Adam Jonas at Morgan Stanley, that most of their target price of what Tesla should be worth is based on all of the supposed revenue it's going to get from robotaxis, which is never going to become a reality.
Yeah. We were talking before the show. You said that they've started to take down blog posts that said that they had self-driving hardware built in to the cars.
Yeah, back in October of 2016. And it's funny, I was in California at the time because I was speaking at a couple of conferences in San Francisco that week. And I listened to this conference call that they had where he announced, where Elon announced that the very first sentence, and there's a recording of this call that you can find on YouTube, and I put the link in the rundown. But the very first sentence, the very first words out of Elon's mouth on this call was, "The basic news is that all Tesla vehicles exiting the factory have the hardware necessary for level 5 autonomy."
I remember that.
Yeah.
That was like, wow.
And there was also a blog post that they published at the same time that said, essentially the same thing. In the last couple of days, Tesla has all of a sudden started pulling down all these blog posts, all these old blog posts from its company blog, including this one. And I think
they're pulling down the master plan.
I think the master plan might still be there. I haven't looked through everything. That's
Electric
still there.
Says
they might have pulled down the original master plan, the first master plan,
the secret master plan.
Yeah.
What's the theory
secret
on
Tesla Motors master plan, just between you and me, has been pulled down?
Okay. So that was the original one.
Yeah.
And he's done.
What's the theory on why now?
Because in the last week or so, the last couple of weeks, they have started to seed out the latest version of their full self-driving software, which is version like 12.5. And they've seeded it out to a few select Tesla influencers. And there's all kinds of videos online of this stuff running. And somebody came to the realization, and I can't remember exactly who figured it out, but there some small number of current Tesla vehicles are being built with what's known as hardware 4. So this is part of the problem, going back to that original announcement. He said every vehicle being built from here on out will have the hardware necessary with just software updates. And that is untrue, because at that point they were releasing hardware version 2.
That's relevant because you're assuming when you buy the car that you could pay for an upgrade.
Well, that is the whole premise of paying $5,000, $10,000, $12,000 for full self-driving, is that you will one day suddenly magically get this over-the-air update that will enable you to turn your car into a robo-taxi.
Right.
And since 2016, they've released at least 3 other hardware computer revisions for full self-driving. And earlier this year, they started building some cars with version 4. Well, it turns out that this latest FSD software only runs on version 4 hardware. It will not run on the 2 million or so older Teslas that have hardware 3 or hardware 2 still on them. And so I think they're trying to purge evidence of these claims, and I think there was comment from somebody. There's somebody on Twitter. His name's Omar Kazi. His Twitter handle is Whole Mars Blog, and he's always been one of the big Tesla fanboys. And he's been making claims on Tesla. Oh, Tesla never promised that the older hardware would support fully self-driving. which is exactly what Elon himself said in his own words.
Yeah. You could just
I
look
don't
it
know
up.
if I don't know if you want to play.
Guys.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to play that YouTube link that's in there. But just like the first sentence, you can hear Elon say those words.
I mean, just the idea that that anybody thinks that that's going to get them out of a lawsuit, right? I mean, it's so easily findable.
It's so easily provable. Yeah, exactly. Well, should I just play? I could play a little bit of this.
Yeah, just play like the first
little bit of
20 seconds. Okay. All you need to hear is the first sentence.
Okay. This is
the basic news is that all Tesla vehicles exiting the factory have the hardware necessary for level 5 autonomy.
not true.
That's a lie.
Do you think he believed it at the time, though, or was he just totally? Like, in your opinion, I'm just curious.
It's hard to know what he actually believes. But the funny thing is, like I said, that week I was in San Francisco speaking at 2 different conferences, and one was at a conference on autonomous vehicles. And as it turns out, I was chairing the autonomous vehicles conference, and on the second morning, the opening keynote was supposed to be done by George Hotz.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that in a second. But I ended up doing the opening keynote, and this was a couple of days after this conference call. And I asked the audience, how many people here actually believe that the autopilot version 2 hardware will be capable of self-driving? And I think about 2 people out of about 150 in the room raised their hands. And I said, no, I'll explain to you why it'll never be true. Because the definition of level 5 means that the vehicle can operate without human supervision or intervention under all driving conditions. So any weather, any time of day or night, any roads. And the problem that the Tesla system has always had is they don't have any mechanism to keep the sensors clean. Which means that if you're driving in winter conditions and you get snow and slush built up on the cameras and the radar,
you better not trust the car.
It's not going to work. So by definition, it cannot be level 5. But for the as far as George Hotz was concerned, he was supposed to do the opening keynote that morning, talking about his Comma AI project.
Another self-driving you can add to any vehicle.
Yeah, and as I was walking into the event space, I happened to glance. I looked at my phone and looked at notifications and saw there was a TechCrunch article just published that George Hotz or Comma AI had gotten a letter from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration a couple of days earlier, just asking for more information about what they were doing, not accusing them of anything, but just asking for some information about what they were doing. And Hotz almost immediately canceled the project, said, okay, we're not doing this. I'm leaving. We're done. And as I walked into the event space, I talked to the organizer and said, let me guess, George called to cancel. He's not going to be doing his keynote this morning, right? And so fortunately I had a presentation that I had already done a couple of times before that I was able to just do it in his place. So.
Yeah, my son, the internationally famous TikTok chef, Salt Hank, has a Model 3. And he says, I said, do you have full self-driving? He says, yeah, I pay $200 a month for it, but I don't use it. He says, it drives like an a-hole.
Yeah.
It rolls through. He turned it on and we rolled through a stop sign. He said, yeah, that's what it does. I said, I'd heard that it was actually trained on Elon. He said, yeah, I think it's Elon, the way Elon drives. He said, I used to use it on the highway, but it was so aggressive, I felt like a jerk. Anyway, that's just
he should just turn. I mean, if he didn't pay up front for it, he's just doing the subscription. He should just turn it off until
he's going to do that
until it actually works, which it never will.
We rented a full self-driving car and drove it around, test drove it, and this I know it's gotten a lot of better since then. It was a few years ago, but I mean, it was absolutely terrifying.
It's terrifying.
Have you ridden in Waymo or Cruise or anything like that? Either of you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
The Waymos are amazing.
I was going to say the exact same thing. I've had fantastic Waymo experiences. I look forward to, when I go to San Francisco, as long as I'm staying in an area that Waymo serves, I'm like, actually, this is really good.
But it's not level 5.
No, it's level 4 because it's geographically restricted. The only difference between level 4 and level 5, they both are, that there's no human required to supervise it or intervene. It can get if it runs into a problem, it can get itself to a safe stop without human intervention. Then somebody can intervene. And level 5 just means it can do it anywhere at any time. Level 4 means it's got some constraints on where it can operate. Usually geographic constraints, sometimes weather. It's a level 4
You
system.
said on this show some months ago that there will never be a level 5 vehicle.
Yeah, I don't think there will be. Or if there is, it's going to be a very long time.
Years.
I used to think that. I used to think there never will be, but I don't know. I've become less of a doubter now because of all the stuff that's been happening in AI. I'm like, it's so hard to predict.
It is. You never know. But this is Sam's one big job. This is all he does is write about cars and all of that. Hey,
well,
let's take a little break.
Like barring a breakthrough or something.
Yeah, there could be barring a breakthrough. That's fair. Or maybe it'll happen in 100 years or something.
Yeah.
But as it stands today, that seems highly unlikely. I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you ask anybody at Waymo or any of the other companies, people that actually work on this stuff, they will tell you, no, we don't think we're ever going to get to level 5.
It's too hard. Yeah. Let's take a little break. Sam Abuelsamid, our car guy, is here. He does a great podcast. If you love this stuff, wheelbearings.media. Also principal analyst at Guidehouse Insights. Christina Warren, film girl. She's a senior dev advocate for GitHub. I love the green GitHub t-shirt. Is that a Brat Summer t-shirt?
It is. And I want to be very clear. This is not brand approved.
You made it. You had it made?
I made it. I made the SVG myself and had it printed. But no, this is not brand approved, which feels most Brat, honestly. So,
yeah. It's perfect. And Reed Albergotti, who is at Semaphore. He's their technology editor. It's great to have all three of you. Always fun to have smart people on to fill me in on what's really going on, because I'm just pretty much baffled by the whole thing.
I put a lot of thought into my wardrobe too.
Yeah. Yeah, AI is very baffling.
I did change from a green t-shirt to a gray one because I've got a green screen behind me.
Yes.
I didn't want to float. I didn't want to be a floating head.
Oh, okay. Oh, gee, you fooled me. Holy
it looks
cow.
real.
I was going to say that. I really thought it was real. I was like, oh yeah, yep.
That is an actual. That is a photograph of my office.
Sure.
I'm just not. My office is upstairs. I'm just not sitting in my office right now.
No, that's really good.
Well, I'm sitting in mine. Even though it's proof positive that I'm a terrible business person, that I'm up here in my attic. Our show today brought to you by NetSuite. Now, I know this much about business. The less your business spends on operations, multiple systems, and delivering and manufacturing your product or service, well, the more margin you have, the more money you get to keep. That's called profit. In order to reduce costs and headaches, smart businesses are graduating to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite, the #1 cloud financial system, bringing accounting, financial management, inventory, HR, all into one platform, which is great because it means one source of truth. With NetSuite, you reduce IT costs because NetSuite lives in the cloud, no hardware required, and it can be accessed from anywhere. That's very nice. You cut the cost of maintaining multiple systems because you have it all in one unified business management suite. You improve your efficiency by moving all your major business processes into one platform, so you don't have the context switching and the errors that are introduced by manual tasks. Over 37,000 companies have already made the move. So you do the math. See how much you'll profit with NetSuite. By popular demand, NetSuite has extended its one-of-a-kind flexible financing program for just a few more weeks. Head to netsuite.com/twit. That's NETSUITE. It's a suite. Get it? netsuite.com/twit, TWIT. We thank NetSuite so much for supporting This Week in Tech, and we thank you for supporting us by going to that special address so they know you saw it here. netsuite.com/twit. Thank you, NetSuite. So we've been talking about it for several weeks, this incredible breach, this data breach from National Public Data. This was a data broker, one of those sites you go to if you want to do a background check or find out where your high school sweetheart lives and that kind of thing. They were breached. They admit they were breached. And I think it was 3 billion records, not people, but 3 billion records were released. Some of them corrupted, some of them not accurate, some of them very accurate. I did a search on my name and found the last 2 digits of my social, which means they had that my social security number was in the leak. It also had a bunch of addresses, but it wasn't up to date, which is interesting. It didn't have the house I've lived in for the last 11 years, so I think it's a fairly dated one. Brian Krebs, in his blog, Krebs on Security, published a story in which he said, he explained how the leak happened. New details emerging about the breach at NPD. Apparently, when they had somebody come in and design their website, the people who designed the website put a zip file on the site as a convenience with all the passwords, plain text usernames and passwords in the source code, and left them there. And I guess that probably is how the hacker got in. The Salvatore Salvarini, who is NPD's founder, a retired actor and sheriff's deputy from Florida, when reached via email by Brian Krebs, said the exposed archive containing credentials had been removed from the company's website. And that site, recordscheck.net, which is identical, by the way, to NPD's site, is going to cease operations in the next week or so. Old version of the site, made by Creation Next, a Pakistan-based web development firm that apparently designed both NPD's site and Record Check site and left the passwords on the site. Whoops.
They should have used passkeys.
Yeah.
For real. You have one job. You have one job.
You have one job. Just don't, actually, we had an engineer many moons ago in the brick house who just, I guess, maybe didn't know about password managers or something, but just thought it'd be a good idea to put all of our passwords, to everything, on a web page, a public web page.
Oh, God. No, that reminds me.
Nothing bad happened. But,
thank goodness. But, these things can happen to anyone, but it's especially egregious when it happens to, data brokers or, when the LastPass breach happened. That took a lot more, obviously, than what this took, but still, when you're responsible for so many people's important information.
Well, can we just ban these guys?
I agree. But I also feel like there should be some sort of sanction, some sort of financial sanction when these sorts of things happen.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Wait, you mean you want to ban data brokers? Or
yeah. Can we do that, Reed?
It does seem like a business that is not,
it's not needed.
It's like what purpose, do they serve? I'm sure there is some
information. They buy it from ISPs and websites and applications. They collect it and then they sell it.
Package it and they sell it, and it's awful. Yeah, no, it enriches them, but it harms society. Yeah.
I used to
one
like
of the reasons I've been told that we don't have a federal law against this is that law enforcement likes it because they can buy this data.
I was just going to say journalists like it too.
Yeah.
Totally,
do you use this kind of stuff, Reed? Have you used
it? There are services, right? Like legit services to try to get people's phone numbers. And LexisNexis is one of them, but nobody answers their phone anymore anyway. So it's like, I don't know. Who cares?
I answer my phone.
Do you? Okay, I'll call you.
I do if I recognize the phone number or
right.
If it's in my contacts, because I actually do get a lot of phone calls, and I
do you really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to guess that Christina Warren does not ever get a phone call ever.
I get my mom.
Your mom, of course.
Mostly I get texts. I get hundreds of texts a day. I get very few phone calls. When I get a phone call from a friend, I'm usually like freaked out. I'm like, FaceTime is different. A FaceTime request is different. But a phone call, I'm like, okay, like what happened?
Yeah. This is an emergency. You're probably in jail.
Yeah.
I often get calls
Exactly.
from reporters looking for comment on stories.
Sure.
In my role as an analyst, so I do
Absolutely.
actually get a lot of calls.
Yeah.
I got a couple of calls from the Sonoma County Jail, but I turned them. They're collect calls, so I turned them down.
What did Hank do now?
I don't think I know anybody in jail. I really don't. If you're listening and it's you, knock it off. Some guy
Wait, you
named
really
Mike.
did, or I can't tell what's a joke here and what's not.
No, it's not a joke. Some guy named
Really?
Mike every few days calls me from the Sonoma County Jail, and because you have to call collect because the jail system really
yeah,
sucks. It's
right.
like $20 to make a
And
call.
it's such a scam too.
Yeah, it's a total
A
scam.
little scam. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just say no. I don't answer it. I don't answer it. Hey, here's somebody that should be put out of business. Live Nation Ticketmaster. And now, as you know, the Department of Justice has sued them, trying to break them up. 10 more states joining it, which means now 39 U.S. states, the District of Columbia, the United States Department of Justice, are all going after Live Nation, seeking to break it off from its ticketing subsidiary, Ticketmaster. The company, according to the DOJ, engaged in monopolization and other unlawful conduct designed to thwart competition in the live music industry. You cannot be a performer in the United States and play a big venue without cooperating because they own all the venues.
Yeah, I mean, almost all of them. Like there are a few that AEG owns, and then we'll go through like an alternate ticketing system, but it is like a handful. It is in terms of large stadiums. There are maybe some smaller venues that don't have to do it, but it is impossible as an artist to avoid any of these large things, and almost all of them are affiliated with Live Nation and Ticketmaster. Now, I think there is an argument to be made that simply breaking this up doesn't get rid of some of the broader, scalping problems and some of the broader kind of, problems that are associated with that. But without a doubt, I mean, the fact when Live Nation, when the roll up was allowed to happen to begin with, it was either the late 90s or the early 2000s. This is exactly what the critics at the time said was going to happen, and it has. It is become kind of an extortion ring, and to a certain extent for promoters and for artists.
Live Nation says, "What are you talking about? We charge less than many businesses. 5% commission on tickets is lower than Airbnb, 17.2%, Uber, 25%, StubHub, 37%. Live Nation, in response to the lawsuit, says the DOJ ignores everything that's actually responsible for higher ticket prices. Don't blame us. Increasing production costs, artist popularity."
But what about all the fees that add up to 50%
Exactly.
or more of the
I was
the
going to
ticket
say.
cost?
I was going to say
that commission is maybe just one small piece of it, but there's a whole bunch of other things.
I was going to say that 5% is really misleading. Now, I will concede with them that they do make a good point about StubHub and some of the other secondary.
So what they say is, look, because I buy stuff from StubHub. If I can't, we're going to be in New York. There's no way I can get a ticket to a Broadway show without
Today Ticks or
going to an
like
aftermarket, after
Absolutely.
sales. And they say that's what Live Nation says. See, people are paying so much for tickets. That just proves that we should charge more. The market will bear it.
Right. Well, and it is like, but you've done this. Well, but part of it is part of the reason the market bears it is because, venues,
there's no
their policies,
scalpers. Yeah.
Right. Well, but also venues, because of their policies, make it sometimes hard, to do resell. Sometimes you can do it through Ticketmaster, who, I hate to say this, because they're a company who is terrible and who talking about people who've, stolen your data. I think I've received like 6 or 7 Ticketmaster settlements in my lifetime because of various things that they've done, and various data breaches that, you get like every, couple of years. You're like, oh, congratulations, this address and this stuff was leaked in your stuff. But I will say their secondary ticket pricing is somewhat better than like Vivid Seas or StubHub because they take fewer fees. But that doesn't make up for the fact that, they kind of have this monopoly, of collusion, of having like owning the venues and the ticketing place. And they do such a terrible job at stopping bots that it leads to, the over abundance, of resale things. Now, some shows the demand simply does outstrip the supply. That's absolutely true. But in a lot of things, that's not the case. And they know it, and they actively don't do anything to stop it.
Right.
So it's not
DOJ
Taylor
says
Swift
Ticketmaster
that we're
controls
talking
80% or more of the major concert venues' primary ticketing for concerts.
Yeah.
And a growing share of ticket resales. In fact, that's exactly what Stochastic Guy says in our Twitch chat. A lot of StubHub is Ticketmaster reselling their own tickets.
Yeah.
For a big markup, right?
Remember when you used to actually have to go out, buy tickets from the scalper on the sidewalk outside the venue before
I've done it
before a show?
I loved that. I used to live in New York City.
Yeah,
we
totally.
just you never bought tickets to a show. You just walk down and buy tickets from a scalper.
When I went to shows when I was in high school and college, I would actually have to go down to the record shop or wherever, where they were selling the tickets and get in line to buy tickets, not, none of this online nonsense.
Well, no, the problem even with doing outside the show stuff, because some people will still do it, but counterfeit tickets are such a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all over StubHub and stuff like that too. I mean, that's one of and again, this is sort of a part of the monopoly kind of argument, is that, which is, again, I'm not saying anything nice about Ticketmaster, but if I can buy it aftermarket through them, I will, only because I can be guaranteed that the ticket I get will actually be legit, because I've had on multiple occasions StubHub give me a ticket that then won't scan at the door. And then you have to get on the phone with StubHub and you're like, the show starts in 45 minutes and they have to track down another ticket or do something for you. So, but obviously Ticketmaster can control their own transfer system and guarantee authenticity. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons, like, I would not, at least for a popular thing, if it's for a smaller show at a smaller venue, I might still buy something outside the door. But these days, like, people will just resell QR codes a million times.
You used to see, before you go to a ball game, you see people selling the tickets out front. Do you still, I haven't been to a ball game in a while. Do you still see that, or has it all been subsumed by these new online tickets? Now you just wave your phone, right? It's just,
it just kind of depends, right? I mean, I guess it depends on how much you either want to get rid of these things, because the problem with those third-party services is that it's like a 40 or 50% markup. So what you pay on StubHub, what the price shows, and then what you actually pay is very different.
Right.
Hi, this is Benito. Is this a place where NFTs can actually like do something?
Yeah, I mean, blockchain could absolutely guarantee that a ticket's real. Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
And maybe get rid of the middlemen too, right? Just and there should be a solution.
That would be really an opportunity for somebody with real power in the industry, like Taylor Swift, to put a stake in the ground and say, "Look, I'm going to sell my own." But then you don't get the venue.
Then you can't get the venue. So this is the problem, because she did actually have a Taylor Tickets thing. It was called Taylor Ticks, and it was part of a Ticketmaster verified fan thing. And she did this in 2017 for the Reputation tour. Ask me how I know. Ask me how many times
How many times did you see the Eras tour?
Well, I've seen that 3 times, and I'm hoping to see it once more. But you to be able to buy the tickets to the Reputation tour, which I saw twice, you needed to earn points, and you could do that by either streaming, doing certain things. I may have written a JavaScript and a Python thing to.
You downloaded 800 copies of the Taylor.
No, I literally just looped the "Look What You Made Me Do" music video to play in the background with the sound off, and also complete certain actions. And I did that like for 8 hours a day.
Wow.
Thank you very much, Microsoft, for paying me to do that instead of work in August of 2017.
You were just polishing up your skills. That's all. Your mad skills.
You know what? Honestly, fair point. But also you could earn points by buying merch and things like that. And then that would get you higher in the rank to be able to then buy the tickets through Ticketmaster. But yeah, at the stadiums, almost all of them, I think the one in Phoenix and there might be like one other state, are not controlled by Ticketmaster. But she even if she didn't want to use them, she has to, because that's who the venues do.
Right.
And if
you can't get the venue.
Even if you're Taylor Swift or Beyonce or any of these other artists who are able to, and it's very few
What are you
artists
going to
who
do, play
can
in
sell
the park?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's like 70,000 people. Who else are you going to go with? And they have these multi-year exclusivity things because most of those things are sports related, right? Like it's, I mean, this is one of the reasons why people, when Live Nation and Ticketmaster merged, people were like, please don't let this happen. This is really, really bad. This is going to be bad for the industry. And, the DOJ then was just like, oh, it's fine.
Bless your heart, Greg Scott. Greg Scott in our Twitch chat says, oh, Christina must have a daughter who's into Taylor Swift.
Oh, that's really
No.
cute. No. Really fun that you think that. No.
Bless your heart, Greg. Oh no, she goes, you've seen the Eras show all over the world, all over the country.
The US, just over the US. I haven't gone to any of the international shows.
Okay.
I might go to one of the ones in Canada if I can get tickets. I'm really glad now. I was going to maybe buy one for one of the European things, and now I'm glad I didn't. I was my fear there.
She canceled it, or had to cancel a bunch of them.
She had to cancel. Well, she had to 3 in Vienna, and my fear there hadn't been that. It was more like dealing with the international ticket systems. I was like, am I going to get ripped off?
Right.
So that was my concern.
Ticketmaster is a blessing to all Americans.
No, it's the worst, but it is what we have.
It's what we got, and it works. It just,
nobody can afford to go to these things anymore. Like I was talking to a venture capitalist in Paris for this article, and I said, "Oh, are you going to go to the Olympics?" And he's like, "Oh, I can't afford to go to those things." You're a venture capitalist,
right?
Who knows then?
I was going to say he's the one who can. Yeah, no, I mean, I only, and to be fair, I only scalped one of my 3 Eras tour shows. Again, I think because of my botting with, the Look What You Made Me Do video stuff and getting points, I'd had tickets to the canceled Loverfest from 2020, and that got me higher in a queue. So I was actually able to buy Eras tour tickets the official way for 2 shows. And I didn't have to scalp, but yeah, no, the pricing is out of control when even the venture capitalists are like, I can't. That's
pretty funny.
Yeah.
Oh no, we can't afford that. You have to be a billionaire. We are talking tech with Reed Albergotti. He is the tech editor at Semaphore. Great publication. Highly recommended. And subscribe to Reed's newsletter too, because then you get a regular dose of great information. Thank you for being here.
It's free, unlike the Olympics tickets.
Unlike the Olympics, you don't have to be, or you could be a venture capitalist and subscribe.
A cheap venture capitalist.
Christina Warren is also here. She's a senior dev advocate at GitHub and one of the GitHub brats. And Sam Abuelsamid, car guy, principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights. Nowadays, you don't actually have to be rich to be a venture capitalist, thanks to our sponsor, Fundrise. This is really cool. Venture capital, of course, and we know it, we've seen it, is one of the most lucrative asset classes in the world. You look at the S&P 500, nearly every major tech company on that list funded by VC firms. However, the difficult truth about this is the biggest venture funds are almost entirely funded by institutional investors, endowments, sovereign wealth funds. So unless you know a guy who knows a guy, you and 99.99% of individual investors do not get to participate in the pre-IPO growth of any of these blue chip companies. You have to wait till the IPO, and even then, you have to wait a few days after that, and by then, all the profits, pretty much sucked up by people who are in early. It's happening again. Just look at the biggest names in AI. Almost all of them still private. Almost all of them just out of reach of your portfolio. That's why you want to know about Fundrise, Fundrise. The Fundrise Innovation Fund is changing all that. It's more than 125, it's a big fund, $125 million fund, holds some of the most exciting pre-IPO tech companies in the world, including a bunch of AI companies, and it's designed specifically for individual investors. Isn't that cool? This time you can get in early. Check it out, fundrise.com/twit, fundrise.com/twit. Now, of course, carefully consider the investment material before investing, including objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. All of that information and everything you need to know can be found in the Innovation Funds prospectus at fundrise.com/innovation. Fundrise.com/innovation. And federal law requires me to tell you this is a paid advertisement. So there, as if you didn't know. Fundrise.com/twit. It's a way you can get in early. Very, very cool. Doesn't guarantee you tickets to the Olympics, though. Apparently nothing does. Were you going to go, Reed?
If I were still a sports reporter, would totally go.
Yeah,
that's about the only way, though.
Yeah,
it's the best sporting event if you can ever go. You know
what was really interesting to me this time around. I guess every 4 years. 4 years is a big leap in technology. This time around, the memeability of everything. The amount of content being created, maybe because the networks invited creators there, but it was fantastic. I thought it made the Olympics much more interesting and fun. Everything from Lady Gaga slipping on the steps to who was the break dancer?
Rachel Gunn,
the Australian break.
Ray Gunn.
There's some great memes with there's some great videos that have been posted on Instagram.
Oh yeah,
her and then showing a picture of a dog squirming around on the grass on its back.
I just saw an iPhone holder that's Ray Gun in the green tracksuit.
Okay, that's great. That's good.
What I love is
that
my wife is Australian, and so I was reading some of the Australian. I wanted to know what they were saying, and it everyone from former prime ministers to the famous actor, they've all weighed in on this, and they all unilaterally love her. It's they call it the reverse tall poppy syndrome. It's
totally.
She gave it a go, and
I was going to say, I work with a lot of Australians, and we were memeing on it in Slack, and they were popping up instantly to defend her. They're like, oh, she didn't do anything wrong when there were they were incorrect allegations against her. And I was, some of us were trying to be like, we don't actually care. This is just funny. But they're
36-year-old
You're like, no, this
professor
this is our best.
of dance, right? Or something, movement.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful. She qualified. She got in. She didn't win.
She didn't even score a point. She
zero.
She zero. Literally didn't the worst you could possibly do. But you know what?
So
she gave us a lot
what?
of
That's
joy.
the point of the Olympics.
It's like the Jamaican bobsled team from the early 90s.
Exactly. In fact, there will be a Ray Gun movie.
I was going to say there's going to be a Ray Gun movie. Rachel Dratch will play her. It'll be great.
Rachel Dratch is
the other
Ray Gun.
I just want to have the
memes I
dissenting
loved
opinion
were the
here.
shooting.
Oh yeah,
Benito has a dissenting opinion.
Because
Benito, our
it's just so
producer.
disrespectful to all the actual breakdancers who were
Of course
really
it is.
competing there. That's
There was
come on.
amazing stuff.
Look, of course it is, but that's on Australia. That's on Oceania, frankly, right?
Yeah, but they're all loving it. See, and that's not cool.
I mean, you're not wrong, but take it up with that particular Olympic committee for that sport. We can all enjoy it.
I mean, yeah, the Jamaican bobsled team probably didn't score gold either. Maybe
not
they did.
even close.
I don't know.
No, they did not.
Okay.
Can't remember.
But they did get a movie with John Candy.
I was trying to remember the movie as well. I was like,
but they
I just
really
feel
tried.
it's an amateur. It's supposed. I mean, despite Steph Curry and LeBron James, I mean, it's
The Olympics have
supposed
not
to be
been about
amateurs.
The Olympics have not been about amateurs for decades.
Oh, okay.
No,
Are there
absolutely not.
professional break dancers?
There has to be.
I suspect there probably
She's
are.
probably
yeah.
actually the closest thing to a professional. She teaches it.
no, they're actual dance crews and actual people who
Okay.
are very skilled dancers who do that. Yeah,
And
but
it doesn't put down the people who were really amazing. In fact,
No, but she
probably
took a
drew
slot from
a
somebody
bigger
who could
audience
have.
because
She
of
took
her.
a slot in the Olympics from somebody who could have.
Well,
No.
did she take a slot from someone else from Australia?
yeah,
I mean,
I was going to say I don't think that many people showed. Exactly, I was going to say I don't think that many people showed up to
I think
to
there
the
was only
qualifiers.
16.
Australians cannot break dance. It's a well-known
Absolutely.
fact.
Yes.
Totally.
And it was not true that she created the governing body which ran the qualifiers, nor was her husband on the panel. All of that was just libel.
Yeah,
She
no.
was
got
actually-
in.
I
There
didn't
wasn't,
even know
I
that
guess, a
was-
lot of competition.
Honestly, I think that's what it was. I think that Australians, it's a very white country. They dance a certain way. They didn't have a lot of, maybe a lot of people didn't know about it, which is a different problem. But that's not her fault that enough people didn't know to audition. I mean,
Te Hiratanga Wapiha, who is from New Zealand and was a judge on the Oceania qualifying panel, said, "Ray gun won fair and square. All us judges talked about how she was going to get smashed, absolutely smashed at the Olympics. She knew it was going to be rough. So it's actually courageous of her."
Okay. Chill out. Like there's like a line here, right? Like it's like you can be like, she won fair and square. We stand by our voting decisions. Which, okay, I watched the qualifiers and I would have picked the other person, but I'm not a judge and I don't know what they're looking for. So my opinion is just that. But there's a big line between like we defend she won fair and square and being like it was courageous for someone who knows they're terrible to compete against these very skilled dancers. Come on, there's not courage.
Apparently there were break dancers in Australia who were a little upset, but did they go to try to qualify? If, okay. Anyway, I don't know how we got on this subject, but...
Well, I was going to say the Turkish shooter was my favorite.
Oh,
yes.
That's right.
Fantastic,
Memes.
fantastic.
So that was a perfect example. And probably the air gun target competition wasn't a big, widely watched thing, but those memes made it very interesting. And I think it probably brought a lot of new fans to the sport.
Totally. I would be really curious to know from Peacock, as well as that, what are the partners were in other countries who had the streaming, to see if there was an impact, like if more people went back and watched, the competitions after the fact, after seeing the memes. Because I know I definitely did, right? Like I would never have watched the air gun stuff, and I did because I'm with you, Reed. Like he was fantastic. I went back and I was like, okay, this
his
is
hand
cool.
in his pocket.
And
I never lenses. He just goes boom.
And I never ever would have like tuned into that. So I would really be curious. And I don't know if they would do the breakdown, but it would be really interesting to see, did they see an uptick in rewatches and replays? Because
I'm sure they did. I wasn't there. There's so many sports. Right. I wasn't even aware of it. So
exactly.
It's cool, it's great.
Well, that was one of the things I thought that like Peacock did really, really well, was, I thought the app worked really well. I thought the streams were good. And from, their own press releases, the reporting seems to be like, the viewership was way up. But I think that this is the first one, they've been trying to do the Olympics and have kind of a digital streaming presence for probably since
Tokyo was a massive failure.
It was. And they've tried to, tie it to various cable logins and all kinds of other things. And it feels like they finally got it right this time and really, met people kind of where they actually are, which I think is great.
Whether they made money or not, and I'm sure they did, but even if they didn't, it was exactly what the Olympics were supposed to be, a global celebration of sport. And that was fantastic. And I even think Ray Gun was fantastic. I'm glad she did it, Benito. Of course, they're better breakdancers. I bet you more people watched that competition, though, because of her now, right? They're more aware of it. I know I watched the finals.
It won't be in the Olympics next time.
Right. Well, that was already chosen.
But that wasn't because of her, right?
No,
that wasn't her.
No, that was predetermined.
They've canceled it because of Ray Gun.
I heard that. I literally heard that.
I heard that too.
She was so awful they canceled breakdancing.
It's like, no, Los Angeles was like, well, no, we're not doing that.
The host city gets to select some number of new events that they'll try out.
So this is a Paris thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
got it.
Yeah. And
very French.
I think it's if an event gets selected like 3 consecutive games, then it's like
a permanent.
It becomes permanent.
Yeah, Ray Gun is performing at halftime though at the Olympics. Sorry, I'm spreading my own misinformation.
I think she should be at the Super Bowl halftime show. I really do.
I think the meme will be over by then, but you know what? Okay. Like, I really I want this for her. Like this 36-year-old like college professor. Like she's the ultimate millennial. It's like it's been told her whole life that like you can do anything, and then like life, and then like does, and it turns out you can't. Like it's just it's perfect.
Here is if I can pull it up here, from Massimo, the Ray Gun 3D printable phone stand.
Oh, I need that.
I do too. I was going to say this is very good.
Can I order that while doing the podcast?
I want this so badly.
That's really good.
And it folds up.
A 3D printer now.
Yeah. I hope it's on Thingiverse so we can all print it.
Well, I'll be there. I'll be in Sydney as I do every year with my Australian wife. I'll see if they have those. I'll pick some up and
would you?
back.
Yeah, would you honestly?
How does your wife feel about ray gun? Did she have an opinion?
She is not extremely online, so I told her about ray gun, so I was very proud of that. But
yeah,
she of course loves her and defends her. Like all.
We will talk about when we come back the biggest game in China right now as we continue with This Week in Tech and read Albergotti from Semaphore and from GitHub, film girl Christina Warren, Sam Abuelsamid, our good friend and my personal car guy. He's the expert. We're glad you're here. Our show today brought to you by Lookout. Look out, look out, look out. Love Lookout, especially nowadays. Today, every company is a data company. That means every company is at risk, right? Cyber threats, breaches, leaks. It's just the new normal. And cyber criminals are more sophisticated by the minute. At a time when boundaries to your data no longer exist, what it means for your data to be secure has changed fundamentally, and that's why you need Lookout. From the first phishing text to the final data grab, Lookout stops modern breaches as swiftly as they unfold, whether on a device, in the cloud, across networks, even when your data is working remotely at the local coffee shop. Lookout gives you clear visibility into all your data at rest and in motion. You'll monitor, assess, and protect without sacrificing productivity for security. With a single unified cloud platform, Lookout simplifies and strengthens, reimagining security for the world that will be today. Visit lookout.com right now to learn how to safeguard data, secure hybrid work, reduce IT complexity. That's Lookout, Lookout, lookout.com. We thank them so much for supporting This Week in Tech. Big game in China. In fact, maybe one of the biggest game launches of all time. I was talking to Benito, who's our resident gamer. He said, I want to play it. He hasn't yet. Tencent released something called Wukong, Black Myth Wukong, and so many people are playing it, it actually surpassed the record set by Cyberpunk 2077 and Elden Ring. 2.1 million concurrent players on Steam when it debuted Tuesday, ranking just above Pal World and Counter-Strike 2 by peak concurrent players. Strongest first-day performance in a long time. And it's kind of brought some attention to China's $40 billion plus gaming business. So, Benito, what is the game like? Tell us.
Oh, I haven't played it, but it's an action game. You know, it's a beat 'em up.
It's a shooter? Is it a first-person shooter?
No, it's like a third-person combat game, like Batman or one of those kinds of games. A third-person adventure game, basically. I mean,
it's interesting because I'm sure that there are very popular games, within China, but this seems
that's the interesting part to me is that I've had this suspicion for a long time now that there have been really good games in China that just don't come here.
We just don't know about.
This might be sort of the first peek through the curtain.
Here is a trailer from YouTube for Wukong, Black Myth Wukong. It's in Chinese. As the mouse gives way to the ox, we have a growing talent and force. I don't know what that means either. Is it using Unreal Engine? I bet it is, right? So it's not necessarily all Chinese technology, or do they have their own engine now?
I'm not sure what this was built on.
Looks like Unreal. I'll move ahead a little bit. So is it? I'm going to turn off the sound. Is it like Mortal Kombat?
No. It's an action adventure game where you're just
okay. It's like more like Elden Ring.
Yeah.
In fact, they say it has a Dark Souls like. That's what I find very interesting is now so many people are gamers that games are getting harder and harder. I used to be able to play games. Maybe it's me. I'm just getting older and older. But I feel like they're getting, maybe I'm wrong, but Elden Ring, the Dark Souls series is a perfect example of these are intentionally extremely difficult games. And people love them. Gamers love them. All right, you're not, obviously you guys are not gamers, so I'm just.
Well, I was going to say, the only thing if you get a Neuralink implant, then I think you can play them much better.
That's what's missing. I just need a
that
direct
is a real
interface.
story. Like Elon has said, or like the guy who got the first Neuralink implant said he's like destroying people on Counter-Strike.
You're kidding?
Yeah.
Is he? But he's using the implant to play?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have to admit, I find it a little bit difficult to push the buttons in the order appropriately fast enough. So maybe that's the key.
But is it cheating? Is it doping? Is it video game doping?
It's definitely cheating.
I don't know.
Yeah. That's the problem with cross-platform play. You don't know what special tools people are using.
You don't know who has a Neuralink and who doesn't these days.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, you would think one thing you don't need to be connected to the internet or online or digital would be the derailleur on your bike. But apparently, Shimano, which is one of the big Japanese bike derailleur companies, those are the shifters that let you change gears, are in fact digital. And not only that, they're vulnerable to simple replay attacks, the same kind of replay attacks that allowed people to get into your car by using an amplifier, replaying your car, button into the car, allowing attackers to capture and weaponize data wirelessly exchanged by hardware parts. Gizmodo says attackers could use an attack to unexpectedly shift gears or jam the shifters and lock the bike into the wrong gear. This is from Wired Magazine. Radio hardware to do this is actually pretty cheap. They even say, please don't. But if you have Shimano Di2 shifters, you may want to update your software.
Wow.
And
you
I
do have
a
a cycling expert on the show, but I had
You're
not.
a cyclist, aren't you? I feel like we talked about this before, Reed, right?
Yeah. Wrote a book about it too. Remember
about the Tour de France?
It was about doping. The Lance Armstrong.
Oh yeah. That's right.
But I read your book. It was great.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. But I had not seen this story. This is crazy. I mean, you could imagine. I mean, just last year there was a case where Mark Cavendish, who just broke the record for the most Tour de France stage wins ever this year. Last year he almost broke the record in a sprint, and his shifter kind of malfunctioned. I'm not saying that this was a hacking attack or anything like that, but you could see how somebody could could really do some damage, like a competitor, in the race. That's how I could see this being used. It's pretty interesting.
It's funny. That was my first thought too, was how would somebody nefariously, take advantage of this?
And it's that cutthroat, right, Reed? I mean,
I wouldn't say I don't think there's a problem with sabotaging people, but
oh, good. Okay.
They will, do a lot of stuff to try to win. So, usually it's to make yourself faster, but who knows?
Why would you want to use a wireless mechanism to shift your gears? I mean,
it does seem silly that they.
I mean, I can understand, you'd want your bike to be as light as possible, but when you add in, the batteries and everything, and the radios and the actuator itself to do all this, it doesn't seem like it would save that much weight over just cables.
It's not about weight. I don't think it saves any weight really. In fact, at first they were kind of heavier, honestly, than the other. It's more about, otherwise you have to run a cable through the bike, and there's all sorts of things that, go wrong with that, right? It's probably more useful for consumers. It's a lot less maintenance. Basically, if you're, most people to adjust their derailleur, they go to a bike shop and have them do it. Now you can literally do it while you're riding. You can fine tune the shifting while you're pedaling.
That's cool.
Maybe I shouldn't recommend that on the show, but it does make and it makes installing, if you're doing your own maintenance or building up a bike yourself, it's just so much easier to install.
Here's the explanation. This was revealed, this hack, at the Usenex Woot conference, Woot 24. Makeshift security. You got to have a good name if you've got an exploit, right? Makeshift security analysis of Shimano Di2 wireless gear shifting in bicycles. Modern bicycles, they say, are cyber-physical systems that contain embedded computers and wireless links to enable new types of telemetry and control. The key motivating factor for moving away from traditional mechanical systems are the ability to gain insights about a rider's physical performance, better responsiveness in gear shifting, customizability of how the gear shifters operate, and easier setup and maintenance. So, maybe you do want an electronic shifter.
They're all electronic now. Like
they are.
My bike is electronic. Yeah, I mean at the high end, it's pretty much gone. Like the whole cable shifting.
I did not know that.
Like even in mountain bikes, which were kind of like the last to, but definitely on like a decent road bike now is going to have electronic shifting.
What do you ride?
Well, I've got you mean like the type of bike? I have a road bike.
What kind of bike do you ride?
A road bike, a gravel bike, and a mountain bike. It's kind of
you are serious.
I live in Marin County. Like you have to, they don't let you move here unless you have like multiple bikes. So it's
Have you ever done a double dipsy on your bike?
The dipsy's not a bike race. It's a running race. I mean, you'd get a massive ticket if you tried to ride the dipsy. But
okay, I feel like my trainer did that, but maybe I misunderstood him. I thought he rode the dipsy. There's no way to ride the dipsy.
It's a running. It's a famous running
up. It's Mount Tam, right? Mount Tam.
Yeah, you go like up and over Mount Tam.
Yeah,
from the Marin to the ocean, basically Mill Valley to the ocean. I'm not a runner, but it's a great race. I think it's like the oldest.
It's famous, yeah.
Trail race or something like that in the country. I mean, people love that. But again, cycling expert, not a running expert.
Jester one in our YouTube chat says there was a woman cyclist in the Olympics who got on her backup bike and the battery was dead on her derailleur, so she couldn't ride it, I guess. Huh.
Yeah, that happens. If you saw that show or the documentary Icarus, it was like it was all about doping, but like it started with this guy wanted to do this big ride in Europe and he was training for it and actually doping for it. And then at the end he finally does the ride and it was the same thing, like his battery was dead or something. It was so funny.
You're so silly. So silly. If you are an amateur radio enthusiast, as I am, and as many of our audience members are, you might be sad to learn that, the nonprofit ARRL, the American Radio Relay League, got hacked. Who would hack? Aww. Who would hack the ARRL? Maybe because they have a lot of information about hams. But apparently they confirmed that when they were attacked in May with a ransomware attack, they paid the $1 million ransom.
Wow.
To obtain the decryptor. In fact, they had to negotiate it down. They were covered by insurance, so it came out of their insurance.
Okay, that was going to be my first question was because I wonder if this is increasingly, if it's either a common or an uncommon rider where, you can get insured and use it for a ransomware attack, or if the insurance policies are starting to, not let people have riders that will opt for that. I'm curious.
It's in the ARRL's blog post or their news post. The serious incident was an act of organized crime that took place during the early morning hours of May 15th. As staff arrived, it was immediately apparent that we'd become the victim of an extensive and sophisticated ransomware attack. FBI categorized the attack as unique because they had not seen this level of sophistication up to this point. Within 3 hours, I mean, it sounds like the ARRL was well prepared. A crisis management team had been constructed of management, an outside vendor with experience in the ransomware recovery space, attorneys. Of course, the authorities were contacted. They, after days of tense negotiation and brinksmanship, the ARRL agreed to pay $1 million ransom, largely covered by the insurance policy. But to attack a 501c3 nonprofit, what do you get? What do you expect? Too bad. Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. All right, one more break, and then we can wrap things up. You guys are great. I love having you on. I appreciate it. Read Albergotti. And notice everybody's in their own space. Read Albergotti from Semaphore, Christina Warren from GitHub, Sam Abuelsamid, who for some reason has moved to a palm tree lined beach.
I decided I'd rather be in Kona than in my office.
That's the beauty of technology. And I want to thank the club members for letting me do the show from my house, from the attic. We're really trying to keep our costs low because we understand, times are tough for podcasts. Advertising has pretty much gone away. I feel like we're in the middle of something right now, actually. I was thinking about this because originally podcasting began with consumer goods like mattresses and food boxes, and we had all those sponsors. They've all disappeared, and it's really hurt podcasting. We're fortunate because we have a lot of security vendors supporting us, B2B clients, people like that. And so we're surviving. But I'm waiting for the return of traditional advertising to podcasts, for toothpaste, soap. These guys spend a lot of money on TV ads that are probably not very effective. If I were to say I only use Dr. Bronner's peppermint soap, I think that could sell some units. Until then, we need to turn to you, our fine audience, for making up the difference. We've cut our costs as best we can, but thanks to the club, we are able to keep doing shows and new stuff all the time and really innovate, because I believe that we are needed more than ever with the advent of AI. Technology has become more complicated. It's in our lives everywhere we go. And I think we all need to know it, understand it, and know how to use it and defend against technologies aimed at us. And that's what this network is all about. If you'd like to support us, we'd love to have your support. There are benefits to Club Twit. You get ad-free versions of all of our shows. You get access to our Discord, where some really smart, interesting, wonderful people hang out day and night. You also get special programming that we don't put out in public, like the coffee show that I did last week. That's available to club members as well. And all of this only $7 a month. It's $1 less than Twitter Blue. How about that, huh? twit.tv/clubtwit, and you get so much more. If you're not yet a member, please consider helping us out and joining the club. And if you can't afford it, and I understand times are tough, that's fine too. We will continue to offer everything we do for free, ad supported, for as long as we can. twit.tv/clubtwit. We are doing a special event for not just Club Twit members, but for everybody who watches and listens. I'm going to be in New York City for a vacation in a couple of weeks, and we've decided to have a meetup on September 7th, Saturday. We're going to do it outside because I heard COVID's back. So we're going to do it outside at Bryant Park, which should be nice. If the weather is nice, it should be a lot of fun. I hope you'll join us from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Bryant Park, September 7th, Saturday. And one of our club members, Joe, who's a very good street photographer in New York City, has put together an itinerary for us for a photo walk right after. Should be beautiful during the kind of the golden hour. So we're gonna go meet up at the park 3 to 5 p.m. and then Joe's gonna take us on a photo walk. We're gonna go to Grand Central, take photos of the terminal, one of the most beautiful railroad terminuses in the country. Walk to the Tudor City overpass for that classic shot you've all seen of the Chrysler Building and Midtown. He says this will be a great place for long exposures. We're going to take a subway to Washington Square Park. Going to get pictures of the bloody angle on Doyer Street, which has just been repainted, by the way, or is in the process of being repainted. The Manhattan Bridge, and if we have time, we'll get to go inside and outside the Oculus, which really is a photographer's dream. So you don't have to be a club member for this, but thanks to the club members who are making it possible, and I hope you will come see us. We're going to have fun, and I've invited other hosts to join me. We'll see if they come, but I think some of them are thinking about taking the train up to Bryant Park Saturday, September 7th at 2 p.m.
Hey, Leo.
Our show today brought to you by, I'm very excited about this, Shopify. What's the easiest choice you can make? For example, window seat, not middle seat, right? picking a vendor who sends great gift baskets, outsourcing business tasks you hate. What about selling with Shopify? Aha, can I tell you? Mr. Salt Hank, my son, has made an incredible business selling salt, and it was Shopify that made it possible. I have another family member who sells T-shirts through Shopify. Shopify is amazing. It's a global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. How often do you go online to buy something maybe you saw in the middle of the night on Instagram, and it's a Shopify site, which makes it easier. It gives you some confidence, too, when you're buying. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage, Shopify is there to help you grow. I love Shopify, if only for what it did to help my son get his business off the ground. Whether you're selling security systems, marketing memory modules, or selling salt, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person point-of-sale system. Yeah, often when you're in a store, you're buying something through Shopify. Whatever and wherever you're selling, Shopify has you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers of the internet's best converting checkout, up to 36% better compared to other leading e-commerce platforms. 36% better. And sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. I am a huge fan of Shopify. It powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S., including my own family members. Allbirds, yep, check, used it. Rothy's, yep. Brooklinen, check. Millions of other entrepreneurs in every size across 175 countries. That's another great thing about Shopify. You're global. You're suddenly a global operation. Plus, Shopify's extensive help resources are there to support your success every step of the way, because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 a month trial period at shopify.com/twit. That's all lowercase, shopify.com/twit to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Shopify, SHOPIFY, shopify.com/twit. That's the sound of Shopify. Ka-ching. Thank you, Shopify, for supporting the show. Thanks to our great panelists who have been putting up with me for a couple of hours now. Just a couple more stories. We got to mention that probably in a week from this coming Tuesday, Apple's going to have an event. They haven't sent out, or actually it's 2 weeks, isn't it? They haven't sent out an invite yet. They usually send it out around a week ahead of time. But Mark Gurman says it's going to be September 10th. The company will unveil its latest Apple Watches, its latest iPhone, the iPhone 16, and possibly a robotic, I don't know if this is true, a robotic iPad. We know they're working on it. I don't know if they're ready to release it or not, but are you even though you work for Microsoft, you still have an iPhone, right, Christina?
Obviously. What else am I supposed to use, Leo? Well, what else would I use? No.
What else would I do?
Also,
of course.
iPhone is genuinely physically attached to my body 20 hours out of the day. So yes, I'm very excited. I will buy the newest, latest, greatest iPhone, just as I do every year, just as I will continue to do. I don't care in the future. What am I going to buy, a Pixel?
What else am I going to buy? I just got the Google Pixel 9.
I'm sure
it's very nice.
I'm sure it is.
It's very pretty, but it's not an iPhone, is it? By the way, I love your new digs. You moved into The Simpsons, apparently.
Yeah, the Family Guy house. Yeah.
Family Guy. What am I saying?
Yeah.
I see Meg and Peter on the wall there.
I mean, I can do Simpsons for you if you want.
No, that's okay. Just now it's only Reed who's stuck in the cyberspace.
Oh man, I had a nice background and then I rearranged my office, so now I got to figure something out. Maybe get a green screen.
We put a lot of effort into this, getting this to look like something.
I want to see the rest of your attic. I'm very curious.
You want to see what my point of view is? This is me.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an impressive attic. I mean,
yeah. Well, so I brought this gear from the brick house, right, with the twit bug on it. I have a lot of hats, as you can see. Yeah, it's comfy. It's comfy.
That's really another bedroom. I mean, that's you can't really.
It's a big. Somebody says it's not an attic. I'm over the garage. Does that make it an attic? We don't have attics in California. Oh, go back to the shot because I was just going to show you the best part of it. I have a remote control that lets me open the bomb bay doors.
Oh, nice.
That's pretty cool.
I'm sorry. I just get a little excited. So I'm at the highest point of the house. Does that make it an attic? I feel like it does.
I mean,
technically,
it used to be an attic, but then.
Oh, I see. You think it should be like dusty with skeletons and old toys and things.
Yeah, I was thinking there was exposed, insulation.
Well, I'm sure there was at one point.
Yeah, at one point.
You think I'm going to sit in insulation? No, I'm going to have a nicer space here. Yeah, it's fun. We don't. If it is September 10th, we will cover it. That's a Tuesday. It makes sense that would be then. It will go on sale at usually a week from the following Friday, which would be September 20th. I will be out of town. I'm going on vacation.
Where are you going to be?
Timed it perfectly. So Micah will have to do the event and all of that. It's going to be important for Apple. They've had a kind of a sluggish season. And of course, the new iPhone is always a big quarter for them. New Apple Watch as well as Series 10 that Gurman says will be thinner with larger screens. They're going to revamp the AirPods lineup with new low-end and mid-tier models, and maybe even an update to the AirPod Max.
God, please. I need that desperately. Mine are more than they're however old they are, so I guess 4 years old.
Yeah,
and,
they haven't. Yeah.
Well, no, but the battery is dying, and the problem is that you can only get Apple Care on them for 2 years, and Apple won't let you renew that. And they're $550, and I'm absolutely not spending $550 on a second pair. But as much as I hate them and as much as I complain about them, they are the best, most usable over-ear headphones, even though they're completely overpriced. If you use a bunch of Apple gear, as I do, because of the instant.
Oh, now you're in The Simpsons. I just noticed.
Now, well, yeah, you said that, so yes. Now I looked through my archives of Zoom backgrounds of which I have many.
I have right over my shoulder here AirPod Max. I did not. I thought I'm not spending $550 on those.
And yet you
ridiculous.
And yet you did.
And you know what it is? And this is the strength. And everybody who hates Apple is really hating us right now. But this is the strength of the Apple ecosystem play. No, they're not the best headphones ever. Yes, they're wildly overpriced.
So overpriced.
But they work so smoothly with your Apple Mac and your.
It's true.
It's just natural.
I bought the Sonos Ace, and they're good. For the price that I got them at, I have no complaints, but I got them at a different price than what they're available at retail. And they are better for travel, in my opinion, because they have much better battery life and they fix many problems I have with the AirPods Max. But when people have asked me, well, what should I buy, the AirPods Max or the Sonos? My question is always, well, are you an all Apple, phone, iPad, Mac person?
You're in the ecosystem.
Because if you are, unfortunately, even though I prefer the Ace, and mine are the same, are also the pink red one. So good call there.
I was going to say, do not judge me.
No, well, judge me because I will absolutely buy the pink ones always.
But doesn't it look more orangey than pink?
But the band does, but not the sides.
The band does, but the sides are rose gold. Come on,
rose gold, baby.
But the problem is that I have is even though I complain about them endlessly, if you use multiple Apple things, just the way that they switch. There's nothing else like it. And so I will, as long as they have USB-C, and I would love for them to add a power button. They won't. I would love for them to get rid of
that's
the
right.
bra.
There's still Lightning.
That's the problem.
Oh, Lightning,
that's the problem. Yes. This is why I'm mad at them. I would buy another pair tomorrow if they were USB-C.
Let me show you what
I would be mad.
I will never buy another Lightning.
Same. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Not happen.
I have Anchor Soundcore noise canceling headphones, and they have USB-C and a power button, and they cost a lot less than the AirPods.
But they don't auto pair. So
this was a recommendation from MacBreak Weekly. It's the Max stand designed by Rotating Pixels in Germany. I don't know what that means, but you add a little dongle to your Max, and then it just sits on the stand. And the dongle charges it, so I don't ever have to see Lightning.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and plus it's a nice little stand for the headphones. There it is. Yeah, and they charge on that. Well, you have obviously have a Type
cable
C
that has to go out of it,
cable
yeah.
going into this,
Right?
And this is lightning. Even though you never see it, this is lightning internally. But yeah, see that makes it converted it to Type C, and it matches nicely. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do a home shopping channel, a little QVC moment there.
But no one buy those for real. Like, do not buy AirPod Maxes today.
No.
There's rumored new ones, but even if not, like, no one buy them unless they're like $200. Then maybe, but like
they're not
no
that
one buy
good.
Them.
They're not the best headphones ever.
Absolutely not. But
yeah.
I will absolutely buy the next version.
They're convenient.
Without question. Yeah.
I won't wear them on an airplane though. I'm too embarrassed to. It's like wearing the Vision Pro on an airplane.
I mean, I will, but I have switched to. Oh God, has anyone seen a Vision Pro? Like,
oh yeah.
I was in Portland. I haven't seen one on a plane, but I was in Portland at the end of June, and about 5 minutes after I saw a Cybertruck, I saw a guy riding around Portland on a bicycle with his Vision Pro on.
That's dumb.
God.
That is so dumb.
I see that. Way more Cybertrucks than Vision Pros.
I was going to say I've seen like multiple Cybertrucks in the last like couple of days. Even at WWDC, I did not see any Vision Pros like in the wild that were not like Apple.
I saw one on a JetBlue flight just when I flew out to see my mom a couple of months ago.
Amazing.
Guy was wearing it as the flight took off, and I thought, is he going to wear this the whole time? And I think he just wanted people to come over and say, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah, probably.
Nobody did. And
life.
after about half an hour, he took it off and never put it back.
Well, yeah, because it's 2.5 pounds and it's only
Probably
like
ran
2
out
hours.
of batteries.
Exactly, right? It's one of those things. No.
Okay.
I just got the first Cybertruck on my street, by the way. I think.
Oh, really?
I saw one parked in my across the street neighbor's garage. It couldn't fit, but it was in there. So
did they get a wrap, or is it just the standard?
It's just raw,
just the grubby looking stainless steel with all the stains on it.
There's a few bullet holes in it. Yeah, it's just.
You'd think that they would have learned something from the DeLorean, which instantly looked terrible, and that was stainless, right?
Yeah, they're both stainless steel.
When they remake Back to the Future, it's going to be a Cybertruck.
Yeah,
God,
you know what? You're right.
It absolutely is.
Mr. Fusion on the back of a Cybertruck, of course.
Yep, you're correct.
All right, well, we will cover the Apple event. There may be more M4 Macs as well, which would be awesome. I like my M4 iPad. I just can't wait for that to come out on a Macintosh. So stay tuned for more coverage. I think we should. One more story. Do any of you rent? You probably all own homes.
Oh no, I rent.
You do?
Absolutely.
So
I pay too much, but yes.
You do pay too much.
Absolutely.
You do pay too much, and my daughter has complained about this, and she said, "Dad, it's because of software." So apparently, the United States government agrees. The Justice Department on Friday filed a complaint against software called Realpage for rental collusion. Antitrust enforcers say Realpage's software, which helps landlords set rental prices, has effectively raised price on renters illegally. It tracks, of course, all the rents paid all over the country and allows landlords to raise the rent algorithmically. This is actually the Justice Department's first big algorithmic collusion case. So it will be very interesting to watch because I don't think this is the only app that's used by landlords. So, Christina, you say you pay too much rent. My daughter says too. And she says it's because these programs raise the rent.
Yeah, I've heard about this. In my situation, I think it's probably a combination of factors. But I would not be surprised at all if this is part of it because I've heard about this, that these programs basically can kind of figure out exactly what things are and raise things over time and kind of bid against one another so that renters are in a
Of course, a landlord can raise the rent if,
exactly.
Arbitrarily, but these programs help them raise the rent just in the right way to kind of ramp it. The average U.S. rent, the DOJ says, has gone up 33% since 2020, since the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah, mine hasn't gone up that much. Seattle had for a year or so, they had like a freeze. But then that ended. And even though the city still claims they have an ordinance where it can't go up more than a certain amount, there are many asterisks there. And my building absolutely decided to take advantage of that. So yeah.
Realpage has about 80% of the market for commercial revenue management software for conventional multifamily housing rentals in the U.S., according to the lawsuit. 24 million units. So with that kind of information, you can say, in this market, we can go up this high.
Exactly.
Isn't that happening probably across like every category, though?
Of course.
Algorithmic groceries to whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
The private data landlords share with Realpage include a unit's effective rent, rent discounts, rent terms, lease status, unit characteristics. All show the number of potential future renters who have visited a property or submitted a rental application. So imagine this. An AI goes, okay, we can see how as we adjust the rent, how many more applications you get. How, we know what's the maximum you can get away with, basically.
I mean, it's evil. It's brilliant. It's evil, obviously, but it's brilliant. It's not that different from some of like the trading, high frequency trading programs and that sort of thing. Just applying it to rents. And I'm fortunate that I'm in a position where even though I pay maybe too much and should absolutely move, plenty of people aren't. And depending on what part of the country you're in and what the available housing situation is, and this is a uniquely American problem where people won't build and people will stand in the way of people building. So there is, a constrained supply. Renters don't have a lot of recourse other than to pay. So, it's pretty terrible.
Wow.
I actually
watch with interest.
Yeah. And that's more than half of all the rental units in the United States. It's about 44 million. There's 44 million rental units in the US right now.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
There's this dynamic where these AI automation software, whatever you want to call it, is allowing it's really advantaging, big companies right now. And I think that someone brought up a really interesting topic on how, like everyone's using this for like job applicants, right? Like vetting job applicants and all this stuff. Well, job applicants are now also using AI to kind of just like apply to a million jobs.
Good.
And so it's because it's like, but the companies don't want that. So they're trying to figure out like how to stop people from using AI. So there's this like asymmetry. Yeah. And I think that's going to be a fascinating dynamic going forward in this like fight between, average people and consumers using AI and then, companies, whatever.
No, I think you're right. Like the AI is fighting one another. Like, can we find the watermark to see that this was AI generated?
If they use the word delve,
Right.
Actually, I think
but
I
think you're right.
Exactly what we try to do here at Twit is arm you with those tools so you can fight AI with AI. I think that's exactly what should happen. Yeah, good. Use AI as much. If they're using it against you, use it right back against them. I could guarantee you none of our panelists today were artificial in any way, just their backgrounds. Read Albergotti. It's so I just love Semaphore. You do such a great job. His newsletter is a must subscribe. It's free. He's also the technology editor, SEMAFOR.com. And what was the name of the book?
Oh, it was called Wheelmen.
That's right.
And it was about land. It was based. I wrote it with my co-author Vanessa O'Connell, and we spent years sort of uncovering the whole doping conspiracy on that cycling team and Lance and everything. It was once in a lifetime story. But,
so the tour, it was about Lance and the tour. It has that. I remember now. It has that.
Yeah, the subtitle
picture
is
of Lance on the cover. Yeah.
It's Lance Armstrong, the Tour de France, and the greatest sports conspiracy ever, which Lance took issue with, and he wrote me an email and said, "The number one sports conspiracy? Are you kidding me?"
What about the White Sox or the Black Sox?
The East German
East German doping. I was thinking.
Yeah, and then he said, "Go F yourself."
Falco, rather.
Yeah, exactly. And I wrote back, and I'm like, the publisher wrote that part of it. I came up with. And like, what do you want them to say? Like one of the top 10 sports conspiracies, and
one of the biggest.
He didn't respond.
One of the biggest. That's hysterical. Wheelmen. It's available on Amazon.
It's really good.
Yeah,
it's really good.
And it's on Audible, right? Who reads it on Audible? Somebody good?
I can't remember the person's name, but they gave us a menu of options, and he was the only one that didn't sound like the movie phone voice. So he's
Wheelman.
He's really good.
Lance Armstrong, the Tour de France. Here, let's play a little bit of it. Here, let's hear this guy.
This is Audible.
Yeah, I've heard you before.
Santino Fontana.
I've heard you already before. Let's hear it. Let's jump right into the middle of it.
Introduction. Not long ago, the world witnessed...
It sounds like you, Reed. I'm going to imagine that it's Reed reading it. Sounds just like you. That's great. I can't wait. It's on my... I have
an Italian last name.
Yeah. Perfect. I have a credit. I'm going to use it right now. Thank you, Reed, for being here.
I didn't expect a book plug, but thank you.
Well, yeah. The book came out 10 years ago, so it wasn't an unreasonable expectation.
It's really
That's
good.
a little depressing, but...
Oh, man.
Goes by so fast.
I have a shelf over here of books that came out 20 years ago, none of which made any money. So I can beat you in depression.
There's
about 13 of them. Thank you, Reed.
I'll order one of those in return.
You can't. So. They're not available. No longer in print.
See, so they're collector's items then.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
You find them on eBay at elevated prices.
Everything's vintage.
It'll happen in Bryant Park, I'm sure. Somebody will show up with one and say, would you autograph that for me? Yeah. And, it's one of those things. Who was it saying? It's no fun to write, but it's fun having written. It's one of those things that it's done now, and I don't have to think about it anymore.
You don't remember the pain, is what you're saying.
It's like birth.
I relate.
Giving birth. Christina Warren, so great to have you. I love having you on. Film girl, senior dev advocate at GitHub. She lives in the Simpsons house now in Springfield.
I do. Now I'm in Springfield, which, that makes sense.
The rent cheaper?
Yes, it is. But but that does make sense because that was supposed to be in the Pacific Northwest because Matt Groening. But
really? Oh, yeah. I didn't know that. It's not Springfield, Illinois, or.
I mean, it's never determined, but Matt Groening is from Portland, so a lot of the things make references to Oregon, I guess. So.
I interviewed Matt Groening. In fact, somewhere I have a book when he used to do a cartoon strip called Life is Hell, which is great, with a rabbit with one bent ear.
Yeah.
And I interviewed him when they came out, and he drew. I have a Matt Groening drawing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that he autographed. But this was well before The Simpsons. And then I had dinner with him after The Simpsons, and I felt like such an idiot because I was laughing at the name Homer, and he said, that's my father's name.
Oh.
And I felt so terrible.
But after the drawing, you got the drawing.
Yeah, you got the drawing
that was years later. I had dinner with him. Yeah. Anyway, that's my Matt Groening.
But
both my Matt Groening anecdotes.
But the fact that you have like the Life is Hell, autographed thing. I mean, because that was what led to Tracy Ullman, which obviously led to The Simpsons, which 35 years later is still on television, which is amazing.
Yeah, I'll pull it out next time I do a show so I can show people. It's really cool. It's nice to have. Thank you, Christina, for being here. We appreciate it. Anything you want to plug?
I mean, you can always just go to like my socials, or you can go to the GitHub YouTube channel. I do a podcast called Overtired that is infrequent in its name right now. Oh, thank you. It's with me and Brett Terpstra and Jeff Severance Gunzel, and we do talk some tech things.
I love Brett.
But
great show.
Oh, thank you very much. So if anyone is interested in hearing me talk about some other stuff, overtiredpod.com. Yeah.
It's what the subtitle is like Taylor Swift.
We are not a Taylor Swift podcast. That's a joke, but
okay.
I mean, I sometimes talk about it, and my co-host will placate me.
Not?
Right, and they will like, okay, you can have 5 minutes, and then I'll say my piece.
I'm so glad you're doing this. So this kind of after the end of the
Rocket
last
ended,
one?
Yeah, exactly. Well, this one actually predates it. Actually, I've been doing this one since, I think 2013.
But you only have 414 episodes. What?
Yeah, I don't think that actually count as correct because we counted weird. I don't know how many episodes we actually have and we were intermittent for a while. Like there was a period of time where we would do it like once every 6 months.
That's a lot of episodes.
Yeah, I think we're definitely over 200, but we're definitely not in the 400 range.
Our 1000th podcast is
amazing.
October. What is it, Benito? I got the date wrong. 7th, 6th. It's coming up.
The 6th, yeah.
The 6th. And we have invited the people who were on the original podcast to return.
That's so good.
Patrick Norton has already said yes.
Good.
Kevin Rose says he's going to be in a walkabout and he will be out, won't have any internet access, but he's going to make us a little video. And then I've asked Robert Heron and David Prager. So with any luck, we'll get the original Twit cast from Twit 1 on our 1000th show in about a month.
It's fantastic.
I'm so old. I've given you like four reasons to think how old I am in the last 15 minutes. It's crazy.
Well, no, I mean, the thing is that no, like time moves on. You don't.
So it's okay.
No, well, you could just be like me, like time moves on, but like you don't. Like
I don't. Yeah, that's exactly right. Time moves on, but I don't. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I have those in recording. Thank you, Sam Abuelsamid. He is my car guy. You've been never anything but the best recommendations. Wheelbearings.media. If you love cars and you want to know more, don't tell me who won the Formula One. I haven't finished. I'm only halfway through. Guidehouse Insights. That's his day job. He's a principal researcher there. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you for having me on here again, Leo. It's been fun conversation. And you were mentioning earlier about your photo walk in New York and Grand Central Station. If you ever do get back to Detroit, I highly recommend that you pay a visit to the Michigan Central Station.
They just renovated it, didn't they?
It was like 6-year renovation process. It was the place had been abandoned for 34 years. And it was just this shell of a building that was an embarrassment to everybody in Detroit. And they've done an incredible job restoring that building back to its original glory. And it's beautiful inside. And, it dates back to 1913, I think, originally opened.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Who did this?
Ford Motor Company.
Oh yeah, I remember reading about this. Yeah,
Ford.
And they use it as office space, but it's also an exhibition area. And
so Ford's taking up several floors, or going to be taking up several floors as office space. And there's going to be a hotel in there, nice. And then there's a bunch of other floors that are available to other companies to use to rent, and then event space down on the ground floor. And it's really stunning to look at. I got a chance to walk through there back in May before it opened up to the public, and it's wonderful.
Well, it gives me an excuse to go back and visit. We went out to Dearborn and visited Ford when they were a sponsor, and I went down on the F-100 assembly line, which was an amazing experience. And I'll never forget the Henry Ford Museum. So good. Now, and I know where I'll stay next time, at Michigan Central.
Yeah.
How fun. Thank you. And maybe we could do something with you. That'd be a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah,
Sam.
absolutely. Love to.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us. We do Twit Sunday afternoons, 2 to 5 p.m. Pacific. That's 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern, 2100 UTC. You could tell because I have a clock. My clock has a UTC on it. So now it's after midnight UTC. Holy cow. 0800 or something. 0300. Anyway, if you want to watch us live, you can. We are on 7 platforms. So we are, of course, on youtube.com/twit/live, twitch.tv/live. And the chats are open there, by the way. I see the chat. It's great. I see somebody on Kick. We're on Kick as well. We stream to Discord for our club members. We stream to Facebook, x.com, and LinkedIn, weirdly enough. Apparently LinkedIn has live streaming. Say hi if you're on LinkedIn. Hello, LinkedIn. I think we're going to replace Kick with Telegram. We've been talking about that. We can only do 7, so we have to pick the right 7. So I think maybe we'll move that to Telegram if Pavel gets out of jail. We'll see. But you don't have to watch live. That's just if you're into it, that we stream it live. After the fact, on-demand versions of the show, carefully edited to remove all the bad words, available on our website, twit.tv. There's also a YouTube channel with the video, the edited video, and then, of course, the best way to get the show, any of our shows, is to subscribe in your favorite podcast player, and that way you'll get it automatically the minute it's available. We like to say the The first podcast of your week on Monday morning is the last word in tech. This week in tech. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Reed. And thanks to all of you for watching. We'll see you next time. Episode 994. Another twit is in the can. Bye-bye.
Amazing.